Red is on. We are ready.
Good afternoon and welcome to Thursday, October 10th, 2019 Selectmen's Meeting. We all rise and say pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we've got minutes of 10:03.
I move the minutes of October 3rd, 2019 to the floor for discussion. Hi, Gail. Page 1, my selectmen's report. I'd probably use the word paved, but technically it's resurfaced as well.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, I think I was corrected at the time. Either way.
Under page 104, Selectman Constantino's reported the CBA collective bargaining agreement negotiation meetings will bring updates as become available. I also asked the selectmen to make sure that their updates are in. I need that in the minutes.
Ask selectmen.
To make sure that their input, if they wanted any input into changes that they needed to.
Okay.
Page 4, top of the page. Last sentence, there's a window of until mid-November before the local asphalt plant closes, because we can run to possibly Franklin, Concord, Hooksett.
Under the service award, do we give any credit for the friends and family of the person here, or no? And it just seems like, the sentence seems like, oh well, applause shared, photos taken, refreshments provided, end of discussion. Boom. And that's not what our intent was. Well, somebody reading this 10 years from now, would they look at it and say, wow, they really did this one up, didn't they?
Where is this located?
204 under service award.
Well, what do we need, the head count and who was here, or?
No, just, I mean, there should be something in there that their friends and family came. Whatever.
No, go ahead,
Open to the public.
go ahead. They did, they came,
That's fine.
and a good time was had by all.
Make sure the next one is a little bit,
Well, I can't say that. I can't speak for everybody, but a good time was had by me.
I inserted friends and family attended.
I would make a motion to accept the minutes of October 3rd, 2019 as amended.
second?
Anything else, everybody done?
Nope.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm not done yet.
Not done?
Oh, I said that before.
I didn't hear you.
Okay.
I thought you said, oh,
Done now.
you're done. So moved. I'm sorry, Pat, but I understood that you, what I heard was
Said
I'm
I'm
all
fine,
done.
John, I'm not
So,
upset
right,
about it, go
okay.
ahead, just keep
But
going.
if you want, we can reopen it.
No, I'm fine, I said I'm fine.
Okay. Next thing we have is Public Works Report. Come on down.
Okay.
The hell of a gal.
Hi, Gail. So, all is going well. Busy, very busy. I guess the big thing is Foreman Peter is on vacation for 2 weeks.
Good for him. Bad for
He's getting some, no, we're holding good. Yeah, we're having the guys do some mowing and clearing of brush, things of that nature. They're staying busy. We're clearing sidewalks, getting ready for this year's winter storms and clearing snow, making things easier for us. So yeah, we're addressing sign issues and things of that nature. So the guys are staying busy and we're still getting some stuff done. So it's good to see that the guys can continue working without the foreman. Even though the foreman's missed, they're still being productive. So I would like to say that Jack has stepped up in Peter's absence and really doing well with taking the reins and being proactive, mentioning things that need to get done, asking questions, things of that nature. What about this? What about this? So he's putting some forethought into what's going on a daily basis. So that's good to have. So yeah, all good. The water department told me today that they should be done this week with all of their work, including the haying and seeding of disturbed lawns and things of that nature. Had a hiccup with the sewer, but we worked through it. All is good. My drainage is all set. Going forward, they are going to communicate with me. Anything that, if they hit drainage or anything like that, or and that's all I asked. I just asked, I understand that they're going to put it back or do what they have to do to get the job done. I just want a heads up so that I can actually come down and take a look. Because the contractor I'm not used to working with in town and vice versa. So it was kind of a learning process. But going forward, I felt good after talking with them today, and I feel that they're going to be a good asset for us in the future. So.
Where was the drainage line in relation to the sewer line? So that we had hit it with our operation. Is it on top of it, or is there
Yes.
So no separation?
Well, vertical separation.
Okay. How much vertical?
Our drainage was about 24 inches below surface.
Okay.
In the areas, I believe, that were affected, the sewer was running even lower than the water department's lines. So I think to make their job easier, they just removed sections of our drainage and then put them back.
Was that in areas where they were digging pits or where they were actually pulling the line?
That's just it, I don't know.
Okay.
Pits.
Was the pits?
It was the pits.
It was the pits?
And they dug the pits.
Okay.
So
Okay.
everything was, well, water and, has been on top of our line because the sewer went in first and
Yeah.
there's ledge and it was the easiest
I mean,
place to
it's a
go.
small road and
That's what they
there's,
did back then.
it's very crowded. It's a small
So-
road and we have a lot of
Yeah, when they
utilities,
dug
so
the pits, they found everything on top and
that's fine.
a couple of times it just removed, they should have called it that.
That's okay.
I'm glad we worked that out.
So going forward, I don't foresee any problems. Can't really.
Tentative, we're done, ready to pave.
Tentative, we're done last week of October. I've put a call into R&D paving, and they are ready to go as soon as I give him the final call saying that we're done. So we're looking for the last week of October or the first week of November,
Are they looking to bang them all out at once, or do
Yes.
they? Okay. so
all
they-
at once.
I didn't know if they wanted to go in and out.
No, no, all at once. So yeah, that'll be good to get that, at least the base binder applied, and then we can shore up the edges for the winter so we don't have any cracking issues. Clean out our catch basins because there are a bunch of material that have flown in the catch basins because it's been gravel roads. So we're gonna clean those out and make sure it's all ready to go for the winter. So, yeah,
What
we're
about the townwide thing?
townwide cleanup.
Well,
Amnesty weeks? We're all set for that. We did have a small hiccup with personnel because it's part of Peter's 2-week vacation. But the 19th, one of my guys has military responsibility. So Peter's going to come in and help us on that day. So he'll come in on Saturday to help out.
Outstanding, and would you give the dates and times for those who might be watching?
The 16th through the 19th. 16th, 17th, and the 18th is from 9 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then Saturday is from, I believe it's 8:30 until 3:30.
Is
So-
that anything we can help with? Is that a Saturday, the 19th?
You need to be SWAT certified
To tell
To
people
work.
where they go?
to work the transfer station, yes. So you need a solid waste certificate. Because
You
I,
got signage and all
oh
that
yes.
stuff, anything? right?
Yep, we have signage, we have all the dumpsters lined up. And everything is going well. All the guys that are working that day or during the amnesty they have a handle on everything, so
And
it
what
should go.
items are being accepted over there? Are there
Well,
some
it'd be
items that are excluded?
Easier to say what's not accepted,
Yeah.
and that's the hazard waste or paint in liquid form. We try to tell people if they put cat litter in the paint.
Latex paint, not the
Oil
old
base.
oil base.
Yeah, latex, that's correct. So anything hazard waste we cannot take. There is a change though, because we started taking the fluorescent light bulbs, because we can recycle those with NRA if we have them in bulk and we store them correctly, which we're already prepared to do so. So we've already collected a bunch this year.
You can take those.
We can take the fluorescent bulbs, that's correct.
The compact too, the little ones?
Yes.
Curly fried.
Yes.
Curly fried lights.
Yes, all the fluorescent bulbs we can take, so,
Yeah, that's a good change.
yes. Batteries, tires,
Off the rim,
we can take them on the rim as well.
really?
Yep,
Sweet.
yep, on the rim, even truck tires, 24, 22-inch truck
big?
tires,
26 is as big as you take,
24-inch rim size.
24-inch rim.
So that's the big truck,
That's
tractor
pretty cool.
trailer, yes.
Yeah, well, there's some truck tires that are like
Oh,
really
yeah.
big, and I don't want anybody to
Yeah,
think
20-inch
that,
rims and things,
oh, I know
yeah.
where to get rid of that tire now.
And we can even recycle the, like off-road bucket loaders and things of that nature,
On is there 24 inches
yes.
lower?
So
Yeah,
I have
good
a
information.
question.
Sure.
So in the instance like we have, that we have personnel that need to take time because we've been so busy that they haven't been able to take time,
Mhm.
would it benefit us to have a backup, like somebody that we could call upon once in a while to have as a part-time? So occasional, not part-time, just occasional, say, hey, can you work a Saturday, or hey, can you work? And
For the transfer station or just in
Both.
general?
in general, both.
We already have a person on payroll for that, John Bossy.
Okay, so,
I've had the conversation with him, and he's willing to work year-round for us, part-time.
but he's not SWAT certified to help out on the 19th?
Actually, he might be. I haven't asked him, but he's very well certified
I'm just
with
worried
everything,
about
so.
knowing the situation that people have to take time off because we've been so busy and
Mhm.
they haven't been able to do that. And I just don't want to
Okay.
end up in a situation where they lose time.
Oh, no, I'm on it,
Okay.
yeah.
So I would prefer that, personally, that bring in somebody like John
Mhm.
to,
Well, this kind of ties into my plan next year of hiring in, my plan next year is to hire in somebody full-time. Excuse me, not next year, the following year, 2021, is to bring somebody in and start training them for us, extra full-time person that can learn all of what we do, get their licenses, all their certifications, as a replacement for the one that's going to retire soon. So that is in my grand plan, but the crew that I have now, I have them scheduled in such a way that nobody's going to lose time. John's taking off his time that he needs, Peter, everybody, even Jack and Rob. So everybody, I keep a close eye on that.
yeah,
So, yeah.
good.
Okay.
I knew we had one part-timer, but I didn't know if he was eligible to do that.
And Peter, he's taking 2 weeks off now, and we're scheduling a week in November for him to take off as well. Where he lives locally,
Yeah, yeah,
if he has to come in for a snowstorm,
right,
he can just come in for the snowstorm and then continue with his day off.
okay.
So,
That'd be perfect.
So,
Thanks, Kim.
how are we doing with motor oil? I know we're looking at possible ways of reusing it. You don't take oil now?
I don't take oil now, no.
I would shy away from it because you never know what's mixed
Contaminants,
into it,
yeah.
i.e. antifreeze, because
Yeah.
that's the one that's tougher to get rid of.
Yes. At some point, I'm going to look into that and maybe set some parameters, like it has to be a clear container, something of that nature, so that we can visually see that it is all motor oil. Even that's a touchy situation. I'd have to reach out to some other communities and see how they handle motor oil and things of that nature.
Most of them are going to use the gallon jugs that comes in.
Yeah,
Oh,
it'd be
you got
hard to
that
mandate,
little- yeah.
it'd be hard to take care of or to keep track of. So if we did do that, we would have to have that contingency plan in place for the contaminants that will come in as well, which it is possible. We just have to plan for that. I would love to have a waste oil furnace and collect oil and help offset the cost of our natural gas for heat. That'd be a perfect world situation. I know that I can stockpile the oil that I generate because I know what's in it. But collecting it from residents, I'm not sure. So, but we could further discuss that.
Any other things? Did you finish?
I do.
You have a question?
Did Officer Dana Johnson make contact with you today?
He did. He stopped in and talked to me, yes.
Okay. I was on the phone with him and he thought public works fellow was there, so we hung up. And he was looking at West Pocket.
Yes, we had a conversation, and he was gonna go down and check it out. And-
Oh, so
and
he stopped in.
stopped in to check it out.
Okay, he stopped in at your garage, okay.
And he's looking to do the work next week.
Yes.
I'm just
Check
waiting.
what out?
They're gonna be removing little saplings behind Vest Pocket Park.
Invasives along the river.
Yeah, along the river. So we discussed what kind of equipment he was gonna need, a trailer for all the stuff that they cut.
So you're all set with him?
Yes.
Okay.
I told him to give me as much notice as possible because it
Okay.
is amnesty week, and I would need the time to get that situated for him. So,
Okay.
I gotta tell you that the rain the other day, I actually walked down Maple Court, followed the rain,
mhm.
and it was
Right into the catch
perfect, right
basin.
in the drain. Perfect. There was not a puddle in the two driveways that were absolutely flooded for years.
Very nice.
It was so nice to see.
Yeah,
It was perfect.
happy to hear that.
Yeah, I tried to get you, but didn't answer, but it really was a sight to see, because for years now that we're almost way up, halfway up to your
6, 7
knee.
inches of
Yeah,
water.
at least 6 or 7 inches. The kids couldn't go out and play, they
Mhm.
couldn't walk out to the bus stop to get there. Now,
Mhm.
it all went into where it was supposed to go in. Beautiful job,
Thank you,
beautiful job.
thank you.
The retro reflective sign
Mhm.
that we're supposed to comply with, how
Yep.
are we doing with that, the conversion?
They're very expensive.
Yes, they are.
How expensive?
And the last batch I bought were $700, and that was only for the downtown, for the core area of Tilton.
Village.
I do have a list of signs that I need to purchase still. I was hoping to stretch that out because I don't have a separate line for signage, and I would have to take it from another line in my budget. So that was one of my questions for this year's budget, if I could separate out and have a line just for signage.
Is there something maybe we could, if there was anything extra that we could apply to signage this year?
Most definitely, yeah.
So if we talked to Tim and
Tim,
said,
exactly.
I don't know how many signs you have to do.
It would be roughly another $700-800 worth of signs, and then
So-
the town would be done.
If you talk with Tim, maybe that we could try to get that done?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if
It's
there's
about a 2-week
consensus of the board or not.
It's about a 2-week turnaround once I place the order. I have the
Right.
list on my desk.
Question.
Sure.
Street signs, aren't the heights increasing from like 4 to 6?
6 inches, yep.
So that amount's gonna get all the street signs in the town to that
The
height?
rest of the signage, yes. Because I've already
I know
switched
some
over
have been done, but okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Was there a deadline to comply, or was that just kind of one of those general, you need to do this?
I believe it was 2020
Was it
for
2020?
compliance. And I found out that it's also 2020 for the Class A license conversion to certified instructors. So I'm actually encouraging some of my guys to go for their A license because we have the truck trailer combination now.
Really?
Yeah,
So it's 2020 for that?
it's 2020 for that. I was told it was this year, but they're giving everybody this year to comply and then
Yeah.
making it mandatory next year.
Mhm.
Yeah. I guess the last thing I want to tell you about is the town hall doors. I'm right into it at the garage, sanding and removing finish and stuff like that. There's 2 layers of urethane on there, besides the sun bleaching. So I've been working now for about a week, and I've only half done one door to do it correctly. I have to remove both layers of poly, and then about a 32nd of an inch of material from the wood door to get rid of the sun bleaching.
I
to get
thought
to
there
the-
wasn't poly on there. I thought it was an oil-based marine.
No, it's-
It is poly.
It's a poly, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
My
It's
plan
on top of
is,
the wood.
yeah, my plan is to finish the doors with the marine grade urethane, which has better UV
Right,
protection.
yeah.
So we can maybe get another year or two before having to redo the doors as well.
Well, it seeps into the wood too, and it doesn't dry out the inside of the wood, because urethane sits on top of it and dries the inside of the doors out.
Yes. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on the stage where I'm at with that. Its progress is going forward. It's just slower than I anticipated. But they're looking beautiful. I mean, they look great.
You,
All the natural colors coming back. So it's really nice.
so only have one half door done out of the 2 doors that you took down, and it's
Yes.
been a week.
Yeah.
But really, you've been busy with other stuff.
Other
so
things,
how-
but
how
roughly
much time do you have in it?
Probably 18 hours.
18 hours, and you only have one half door
Yeah.
done?
Yeah, it's a process. Well, you don't want to damage the doors. I don't want to damage the
How
doors.
many sanding things are you going through?
What's nice about the wood is I can use 80 grit sandpaper, so that it's pretty aggressive. So one piece of sandpaper,
That's why.
one piece of sandpaper will last quite a while.
And then you're doing another lower grit to
Yeah, 320. 320 will be my final sanding.
Yeah,
That will make all of the grain in the wood
and seal it.
pop and seal. That's correct. So
So it's gonna be a couple
Can't
more
wait.
weeks.
a couple more weeks, yes, for these 2 doors.
Should we do something more about keeping
Weather
the cold
stripping?
air out?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a gap, I noticed.
Yeah, I can get a threshold molding and attach it to the doors.
Something.
Yep.
I
How,
must say the temporary doors are beautiful too.
Oh, okay. You are.
look,
Thank you.
dark.
They are dark, but
How is the pesticide, herbicide, fertilizer licensing going?
it's progress forward. It's taking me a little bit longer, only because of all the time I'm spending elsewhere. But still pushing forward. I'm studying the materials, taking my tests.
Okay.
You'll be sure to know when I get the
Do you think
Green
it'll
light
be
go.
completed by spring?
by spring. Absolutely. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
talking with probably a month or so.
Because I believe it's the herbicide especially that has to be put on early for it to
Yep.
be productive. Okay.
And early on, there was a question of the crabgrass. It's overwhelmed the entire park, so that might be quite an undertaking to
Those are a few
redo.
years,
Yes,
and that's because it hasn't.
hasn't been addressed.
Other entities
Mhm.
before Public Works
Yes.
had not applied it when it should have applied. That was
So,
the problem, so. Our commissioners said.
It would be-
We'd be doing it in-house.
Mm.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Any more
Great job.
questions?
I know you have a non-public.
Personnel,
You have a
non-public.
5:30. But before we do the non-public, I think we should probably discuss or come to some conclusion about our hot path forward on Academy Street.
Academy Street.
So I think you,
I know that some of you were present on Monday for the meeting at Academy Street.
I just missed it. I got there at 4:30.
There were so many questions unanswered and so many things that were brought to my attention just in the last week and even that day. Like I said, left too many questions unanswered, and certain people were looking for certain things to be accomplished, or they were questioning the construction thoughts or the construction work that was presented. So, in the best interest of trying to appease everybody's questions answered, I decided to halt the project until we could further investigate all the concerns that were brought to us, or brought to light that day or the last week. I have been thinking about how to go about getting these answers for questions. And I know that I should probably have a conversation with Jeannie about how to go about getting this done, or how to present a plan to go forward with Academy Street.
You have Academy Street on your list for next year,
Next
right?
year, that's correct.
It'd be
That
kind
was,
of like in conjunction with that on some level.
and that was one of the questions that was raised. If we're redoing the road next year, why are we building the wall this year?
So the thought was that maybe Kevin and I, and possibly Catherine, if she were interested, to go over and meet with the water commissioners, have a meeting with them, and really sit down and discuss what their concerns are, so we know what the path forward is. I mean, if we hear from them, the only thing that's going to be acceptable to them is a $100,000 wall, you know, and we need to know that, don't you think? So I think Kevin was right in making the call that, you know, we don't do anything this year, but I think the next step should be a conversation with the water commission to find out where they're at. That's what I proposed to Kevin, and I thought, since Catherine has experience in the construction, and Peter, possibly you too, if you were interested and had time, to attend one of their meetings and just have that conversation. Because clearly, communication was lacking as far as they were concerned, and so that's what I would recommend.
So it's a work in progress. I have it as a priority on my desk, and I'm already thinking of plans and scenarios to present as far as, you know, when we decide to go forward, what to do first, what to do second, things of that nature. So,
So now you have a non-public.
non-public.
Non-public personnel.
Probably go 10 minutes.
Yeah, non-public personnel.
We got somebody coming in at 5:30, so. Could make a motion to go into non-public as per RSA 91A:3, paragraph 2, A, dismissal, promotion, compensation of public employee, or disciplining such employee, or investigating any charges against him, unless the employee effective at the right to a meeting, and request that meeting be in open, in which case the request shall be granted. Roll call vote.
Constantino, yes.
Dawson, yes.
Fog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
We are red is on. I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session as they pertain to personnel issues permanently.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And, we're all set. Did I hand out my agenda?
This one's mine.
I'll add 11.
You can look at mine.
Does somebody have that evaluation you're signing?
It's coming down.
Okay, please. Make sure they get lost. Yes, it is full.
Okay.
The heat isn't working, and we've already called KM.
It's always hot
Can
up
we
there.
shut these off then? I can't do it with my fingers, I'm sorry.
There's a hole over there that where it vents.
I don't even know which is which. This is 1 and 2, so those are over there.
Okay, so, that's it for Public Works. And we have Sheila Conley. PFAS lawsuit presentation.
Oh, pass these down to Joe. Pass those down to Joe.
Any
Oh, that's someone else.
All right, hands on him.
So, this is, I'd like to introduce you to Sheila Connolly and Charlie Hanson. They're
I'm Charlie, this is she.
Sheila was former selectman in Holderness and now on the Conservation
Oh, fun.
Commission. And Charlie, you're select
I was a selectman in Center Harbor,
Center Harbor.
chairman of the planning board and town moderator.
So I asked them
Love moderator.
to come in and speak with all of you as a follow-up to our meeting last week about PFAS and the lawsuit that is moving forward.
Yes, it is.
And they're looking for communities who may be interested, and I told them you had some questions or would like more information.
So, Charlie and I are involved with a lawsuit that's been filed against the state of New Hampshire for the recently adopted PFAS drinking water and groundwater standards that just went into effect on September 30, excuse me. And which will impact water suppliers. So municipalities who have public water systems need to comply with these new standards. The new law that went into effect requires municipalities and drinking water suppliers for public supplies to begin testing each quarter for these new contaminants, not new contaminants, for these contaminants at the lower levels that have been adopted. And we believe, and I've included in the information you just got, the statement from the Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District, as well as from our company, who are named in the suit. We joined 3M in this suit because we feel that the department did not follow their statutory requirements for rule adoption. And we also believe that the limits that they adopted have gone too far. And that we are all about clean water. We're not saying clean water is not important and everyone's essential right, but we're saying that the levels that they have set have gone so far as to be largely impossible to meet for many communities. And you might ask, well, Sheila, why are you involved with this? Charlie and I also own a company that recycles the biosolids for the Franklin Winnipesaukee River Basin program, where your daily flush goes. So we thank you for your contribution to our bottom line, because we recycle for you every day. And we're concerned about the impact that this would have on our ability to continue recycling for the basin program and the 10 communities that flush into it every day. So we joined the suit because we want to be able to continue our recycling efforts on behalf of Nashua, Manchester, Brenton, Plymouth, Durham, Dover, all of these towns that we work for. So, and I participated in the rulemaking and lots of the legislative initiatives around these PFAS issues for the past 3 years. And 3 years ago, I didn't even know what this 4-letter word meant. And now I feel like it's all I do. It's become very consuming. So sources of these compounds in our daily lives include Teflon, Cortex, Stain Guard, popcorn bags,
Pizza
car wash,
boxes.
yeah, any
Food
wrappers. And so these are sort of ubiquitous compounds, and they're in our society, and we use them. There are 3 large manufacturers who made these starting back in the late 50s. 3M and DuPont have been the most famous ones that have been, in fact, I think there'll be a movie released in November about, their role in creating these chemicals. Back in the day, these chemicals, even before we had our Clean Water Act, many of them did have impacts and pollution, flushed into the rivers. They acted just like other companies that was a practice that they followed. Since we've gotten to the point where we now have wastewater treatment, we have drinking water filtration, we have all kinds of ways to address these and deal with them. But the DES is required to do a couple things when they adopt rules. They're required to have public participation, so through a sufficient opportunity to testify and provide information prior to the rule being made. They're supposed to make sure that the limits are based on sound science, has been peer reviewed, which this has not been done. And finally, it's an unfunded mandate. So what we're looking at is for municipalities to incur huge costs for treating to these standards that there hasn't been a demonstration that it will actually improve anyone's life or health or, go ahead.
So if they didn't follow their rule-making procedure, didn't follow the science, we can't go to governor and council to put their pressure on DES. We have to go straight to court and hire lawyers?
So it was a little bit of a political outcome. When the Joint Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules, JLCAR, when they voted on July 18th to take these new standards that were being provided by the DES, the vote to move forward was party lines. So it was Republicans voted against it because they said you haven't followed the rules that you should have to follow. But they were outnumbered by the Democrats. And Senator Feltus, who is a Democrat out of Concord, he had Channel 9 News waiting. And Mindy Mesmer, who's a very strong activist against all of this. And it was a pre-done game. And I don't know why the governor didn't pick it up, except that it's an election year and Dan Feltus is running against the governor. So it didn't feel...
And the commissioner has no problem not following procedures under his department?
So the commissioner has been very quiet on this, but the assistant commissioner is a guy named Clark Frizey. He's steamrolling this ahead and expecting that municipalities will pick up the tab. Not his problem. He's going to be saving your life.
And they feel like they have. They feel like they have followed the procedure and done it correctly. We dispute that.
So could we send them a 91A asking where's your science and all? And
So they have provided their science after they adopted the rules. They had a couple of meetings with the public to explain their rollout, their implementation, how they see this happening. And part of that is they went through what they used for a risk assessment. But when they started the rulemaking in January of last 2019, they had levels that were at say this. When they came back 20 days before JLCAR, they were here. So that delta is now causing many municipalities to get sucked in and will cost millions. And they estimated in the original, when they had their standards here, at $270 million municipalities would have to come up with. Now that it's down here, it'll be triple that. And the unintended consequences are all of the other things that will now have to figure a way to deal with these chemicals.
so why is that all silent? Why isn't it being brought out in the public as a way to force it backdoor via the governor and council to say, look, instead of having to go to court and cost municipalities thousands of dollars?
So in this particular proceeding for going to court, 3M is going to pay for this effort. They're asking for $1,000 from anyone who joins as a plaintiff, just so that it shows that you have some skin in the game. So 3M sees this as such a significant issue, not only for just New Hampshire, but for the country. Right now, New Hampshire is in a little bit of a lightning rod for PFAS, and it came out of point source contamination sites, so Pease Air Force Base, St. Gobain, and Coakley Landfill. And those are 3 sites that really need to be taken care of, and they have done that. They're taking care of it. Now, Pease, of course, is a Department of Defense site, so they can write a check, you know. Coakley will be fought for years. St. Gobain can write a check, and they did. All the rest of us don't have that luxury. And so our municipalities and our drinking water supply and our wastewater outlets are going to be impacted by this. So when we talk about drinking water standards, these also become groundwater standards by default here in New Hampshire. So when you said your glass of water has to be this clean, and if you impact groundwater to levels above that, you will be on the hook for treatment if there's any drinking water that's impacted, because a lot of New Hampshire's groundwater becomes drinking water. We have wells, we have aquifers, this is how we get our water. So the issue there also becomes that the department has to come up with a plan for surface water standards. So rivers, lakes are also going to have standards for this, and those standards will then be impacted by effluent from a wastewater plant. So the Franklin facility, which treats the 10 towns flush from around the state, will then be impacted, or it may have to put on treatment for their effluent, and that will then just go back to the ratepayers. So essentially the state is saying, we're imposing new standards, and we're not going to give you money to fund that mandate or to manage that. And we are suggesting that the standards that they are asking us to treat to and to abide by are not based on science, peer-reviewed, that is going to actually make a difference. In fact, to the contrary, there's a lot of data out there in other states saying that we went 2 orders of magnitude too far. So we're just asking the state to go back and to try again and make sure we have this right, because it is such a substantial cost in infrastructure that we already can't fund our existing infrastructure. That's going to add a whole new level. And we've been saying right along that we didn't like the way this was going, and they weren't having enough public information. And then suddenly, we went from here to here in the rulemaking. And so, and during this, level, we had no time. There was no more public comment. And in fact, when we went to JLCAR for public comment, there were probably 35 or 40 municipalities there that wouldn't accept any comment. They just shut it down, and they voted, and that was it.
All I see happening, we're going to line lawyers' pockets. I don't know why we aren't out in the forefront bringing out the fact that they've railroaded it, they've done it wrong, they need to do something and save us having to go to court.
Yeah.
But I've heard nothing in the news.
Yeah. So we filed with the others on.
But again, we're going through the court rather than through the why aren't we going through the public first to save taxpayer dollars?
Yeah. So I have tried very hard to get municipalities to understand the significance of this, but it's a complicated topic. You've got a lot of other things that you deal with, and people just aren't, it's just not on their radar unless you're in an impact site like Pease Air Force or Saint-Gobain.
That's all well and good, but it's like the first thing we come to is here, give us money so we can do it. But we've done nothing else ahead of time to try to do it.
Yeah. So what this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I hear what you're saying. I'm a water commissioner at the Lockmere Village Water District. We've discussed this very issue briefly. We're for testing.
Yeah.
I hear your side of this, and you want our money, but I haven't heard the other side of this. We have a state agency who says the science is good. We have a state agency who's saying the rulemaking was proper. I don't know that that's correct.
No, it wasn't. I was very much involved in that too, Joe. It happened just like Sheila said it happened. And make no mistake, we're not saying we don't support clean water, because we do. But what we're saying, or what they're saying, is they haven't done the cost-benefit analysis. And they've just come up with it. I mean, what is the UK? What's their standard? What's the...
So to give you an idea, our standard used to be 400 parts per trillion here in the United States, and then back in May 2016 they dropped it to 70 parts per trillion, and now we're down to 11, 12, 15, and 18 parts per trillion. So we are so low. Canada, right over the border, their limits are 600 and 400. Other countries, I don't think I brought my chart, but we are the lowest in the country now.
In the world.
And in the world.
This is California 6.4.
Theirs hasn't been adopted. I was
Been
speaking with
adopted, right.
California this morning, and they have slowed way down and are saying we want to wait until the science catches up, because it's sort of been this knee-jerk reaction, and everyone wants to be first to get to the lowest. It's like, okay.
Typically, California has the toughest.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Generally,
Yeah, for
So why
everything.
would we want any of it in our water?
That's what I'm saying. This stuff is dangerous. I'm not accusing anybody of putting this stuff in our water, but as a water drinker from a water system, as a commissioner responsible for the water that these people drink, I'm kind of in favor of them knowing. Now, I understand unfunded mandate is where you get me. All right, I'm anti-unfunded mandates, and we haven't heard how much this testing might cost us. But we test for all sorts of things now.
But Joe, you're normally testing ppm, parts per million, not trillion. You're talking,
I don't know what that's gonna cost yet. Nobody has said.
oh, I can tell you the testing's gonna go through the roof. What, each,
The problem is not the testing, it's what the results are, and if they're below that, now how do you make it good? And as Catherine said, we don't want any of this in the water, but unfortunately, if you look what's in the water, we have a lot of stuff. We have arsenic, we have copper, beryllium, we have all.
Cadmium,
many
there's
things
all sorts of,
that are
and I don't
in-
like it.
I
in
know
our
what's
water.
in my water.
Yeah.
And we
none of
can't get
those
rid
are.
of that, but to come up with a safe standard is very important. And
So,
how would we mitigate it if we did do these
so
really
all
low
this,
numbers?
all
Who would
this,
pay for that?
all that this suit is doing is telling the state to go back and do what they were mandated to do, which is to do the cost-benefit analysis, because they didn't do that. All they did was it became very political and they pushed it through. So again, if they come back with standards and they do the cost-benefit analysis and they say, yeah, it needs to be here and this can be measurable, okay, but they haven't done any of that.
And the
They
health
just picked
benefit
a number.
analysis is a big thing, what is a healthy, allowable amount?
which is usually
How much can
ppm
the
in the
human
testing.
body tolerate after I've had 5 or 7 glasses of water with that in it over every day for,
Drink out of plastic bottles? You probably don't.
You have
Oh,
PFAS
yes, you
in
do.
that glass, right?
You got some, you probably got 100 right there.
I
I
don't know.
went back to drinking beer.
I don't know who asked me, but this
They
is,
use icing glass.
these are the standards from different parts around the world, and as you can see, our new standards are,
You don't know me, but one of my favorite sayings is, I don't care what they do other places.
okay.
I care what we do here.
But somebody on the table did, Joe, so
Yeah.
pass it around.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They asked.
Let's see, how
I am with
reasonable
Joe, I
are we
like the
compared to
unfunded
everybody
mandate
else?
part.
No.
I don't like the assumption that they did their own thing, did not do what they were asked to do.
Right. So the department, they went through a process of assessing the various compounds and looked at a risk assessment that was done in Minnesota. And they brought the Minnesota model here. And the Minnesota model is fairly new and hasn't been peer reviewed or tested. So they took the Minnesota model and then they put orders of magnitude of conservatism in it and came up with their own standards. And there are many people who are disputing, A, the Minnesota model to begin with, but then B, the way we put in these additional conservative levels. Because the other piece of this is these compounds are ubiquitous. You're eating them, breathing them, sleeping with them all day long. We are surrounded by them. So then the question becomes, at what point should a municipality pay for infrastructure to mitigate what is a social thing? Like, we like these compounds, they work really well for us. So what we've asked industry to do is to voluntarily begin removing them from society. So back in 2003 and then 2015, they have phased out the 2 compounds, PFOA and PFAS. So those are the 2 compounds that we were most concerned about. They have been voluntarily taken out of the marketplace. And a place that you get some of these compounds is in firefighting foam. So firefighting foam is used, that's why
That's what
the Air
it is,
Force got so contaminated. And the state has asked for and introduced legislation to remove those compounds from firefighting foam and from firefighters' clothes, so that it will no longer be potentially impacting groundwater. Firefighters, as you can imagine, are saying, wait a minute, those save our lives. We don't really want you to phase those out. So there's going to be some give and take, and maybe we, get it out of the marketplace for the most part, but it's still used in some products. I don't know, that's for someone with a much higher pay grade than me.
No, for public perception, if, let's say, a whole bunch of towns and citizens got together and started a lawsuit to get them to do this, that looks like the towns and everybody going together. When a bunch of the towns and the public get together along with 3M,
Yep.
who they think is one of the big, they're portrayed as the bad guys,
Yeah.
that maybe the people in the town are being misled and tricked into joining on to this to help protect
Yep.
the bad guys. So, you know, is it beneficial for the towns to go separate or to
So I think
join with
that
the?
there's all kinds of paths. You can do just an amicus brief, you can sign on as a plaintiff on this particular lawsuit. We can see, could you start another lawsuit? I think the hard part is, and someone said it right off, why would we pay money for lawyers and lawsuits? And it's hard for a town to say, we're gonna put that kind of money out. But if you have someone who says, I'll pay the bills, I want your standing though, and the suit is very narrow. It's not about which standard do you like, it's about you didn't follow your statutory requirements to adopt these rules. So just go back and do it again and allow more time. So the legislature told them a deadline they had to start by, but they didn't give them a deadline they had to stop the rulemaking by. But they rushed it through, and I feel that they felt like they were being pressured by the legislature, because the legislature had retained a bill, so that if they didn't get them done in a timely fashion, the legislature was going to come up with their own rules, their own standards, and that would have been, and actually it would have been higher. They wanted 20 parts per trillion, we ended up at 18. But I still feel like it's the right thing to have the DES go through the process to come up with the rules.
Now, what do we say we think it should be? We say they're wrong, but how do we know they're wrong? What do we think it should be? I look, in a lot of states we're going with the 70.
Yep.
So like a temporary measure to go to 70 until you do that, is that a feasible
So the
solution?
70 is the EPA standard. And it's not a standard, it's a guidance. It's a health guidance based on 70 years of drinking so much water with this much material in it. I think that's where we belong until the science can catch up. I feel like we have a federal EPA for a reason. They have toxicologists and risk agents and all of these people who have way more knowledge than I will ever have on this topic. And I think we should defer to them. When the DES was told by the legislature that they had to come up with standards, they said immediately, we're not qualified to do this. We have never done this.
So just make it almost impossible to have any, and then
Yeah.
everybody fights why they can have it higher.
But what Sheila said a little bit earlier, the suit is not about what the standard is. It's more about you didn't follow the process. It's a process that needs more time, needs more investigation, needs more scientific review. Maybe we will end up at these numbers, but it has so many implications down the line. This isn't going to happen next year, but 2 or 3 years out, that's when municipalities are really going to start to feel.
Now, the Winnipesaukee River Basin Program, a DES entity, did they provide any comment to DES in the rulemaking?
They're not allowed to. So you would need your sewer commission here. You have a sewer
Yeah.
commission.
2 sewer.
No, you have all three.
All three are in the room.
Yeah. So the Sharon, who runs that,
McMillan.
always give her to them all. Sharon McMillan, she's an employee, and her boss is the one who promulgated these, so she cannot say anything. But I can tell you, their monofill, where the sludge used to be put for years and years and years, has levels that are higher than these standards and higher than even 70, but they've attenuated and it is what it is. So just remember, municipalities didn't create this stuff, they didn't add this stuff, other than it's in our society. When you do your laundry, you are putting PFAS into the system. When you do a car wash, you're putting it in. When you wash and wax your floors, you are putting PFAS into the system. Because these are things that work for us.
That's it, I'm not cleaning anymore.
I'm going to use that excuse. I haven't
Somebody
thought
here
that.
said, no, I don't.
Yeah, sometimes
Because they don't use those chemicals.
I look at it sort of also like as like the school, take the school funding formula.
Sure.
That's been battling back and forth, and there's a lot of people that are getting hurt because there's been lawsuits back and forth, and they never come up with a standard.
Yeah.
So while all those lawsuits are going on, everybody in the middle is getting screwed.
Yep.
And whoever is polluting can continue to pollute.
Yep.
So would they be pushing just to say, hey, you didn't follow the process, or say, we want you to stick with 70 until you do the process right?
So I
To
think
get at least
that
some
will
type
be
of
a
benchmark.
parallel track. What the suit has to do is stay very narrow to the issues that were identified in the process that didn't get followed. But along the way, the conversation happens about, you know, how did you arrive at that number, and what kind of, you know, conservative things did you build into that? And, you know, as simple as literally how much water would a lactating mother drink in the first 12 months of a baby's life? You know, they've got some pretty high numbers in there, having raised 3 kids and done that whole gig. I'm like,
So what was the number before they changed it?
the 70 parts per
70.
trillion. Yeah, so it on.
So would it default back to that if it
During
failed?
the rulemaking process, if these were held, they would say, okay, the rules are suspended, you're back to 70, and
Until-
start rulemaking again.
Okay.
Yep, yep. And, you know, I totally get your opinion on, you know, I shouldn't have any of this in my water, but as you well know, there's a lot of things in water.
We test for all sorts of stuff and we treat, and
Yeah,
I'm also a member of the board that operates the ash landfill
Yeah.
down here.
yeah,
And we sometimes have 3,000 gallons a day of leachate from that pile of ash.
yep,
And we spend a lot of money on mitigating that as much as is possible.
yep.
And if there was another way and more chemicals in it to help take care of that, I would be voting for those things too. I'm a big proponent of clean water. I don't want my granddaughter to say, what the hell was he thinking?
Yep, yep. So, and that's, the good news is, there are technologies, granulated activated carbon, so GAC. There's new resins that are being developed, and there's certainly a lot of different technologies that are coming along. And they will be expensive, as you well know. You know, the PEAS project is already over $30 million in terms of that, but DOD wrote the check, so it felt like, hey, why not? But for smaller systems, for places that have what we call the ambient levels in the background, they weren't impacted by industrial release, how far should we go? And you'll never get to 0, ever. I mean, when you use the toilet and urinate, you are putting PFAS in the drain every time. There's no way around it. It's in all of our blood serum, and it's not just special to New Hampshire. This is across the world. There's Alaska, no place is untouched from this. Through aerial deposition and cycling, it's just here to stay. Plastic is forever.
Like DDT.
DDT we didn't all use like in our daily lives, I guess is the difference.
No, they say we
The
all
food
have
we
it.
ate was
We all have it
all
in our
about
system.
DDT.
Yeah,
Asbestos used to be in everybody's homes,
yeah,
not so much anymore. Except for there's a big batch of it buried on the 3M property over here.
yeah.
So really essentially what you're
around
asking
that.
us,
Well, on the
Yeah,
3M
that's-
property, they have buried asbestos. That's my
Well, they have a landfill and they've got probably others.
oh, they've got a lot of very
Yes.
I'm about to inspect it in the next couple of weeks. So essentially what you're asking us to do is to join this lawsuit and tell DES it's a do-over.
Yeah,
Go back
that's all it is.
and redo, and that's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that.
Not, we want you to come to this figure, we don't want to
No.
just do it over,
Just do it
Which
over and
gives-
follow your rules.
which will give us, at that time, the opportunity to make public comment and to,
And get engaged in the process for sure.
Okay.
That would be awesome. And I think that there are other, you know, municipalities who are looking at this and starting to figure, you know, it kind of wasn't real to people until you got your first test requirement. And if that then sets in motion, you have to test the next 4 quarters on your drinking water, public drinking water. And if you're above the standard at that point, the average, you're above the standard, then you have to begin a plan for treatment. So that would be, okay, now we need to start budgeting out a new system. And then what will that look like? What will that cost be? It's a whole new industry. You know, we're gonna be doing this for 30 years. It's here to stay. So it's good, if nothing else, that now you're a little more educated about it. But I can appreciate if you decide it's too much for you to be engaged with, but in my opinion, more municipalities involved makes the whole case that much stronger. So, and the fact that 3M is willing to pay for it, I too took a step back when I found out who it was, but I also said, well, this is a very narrow lawsuit. The scope is just go back and get it right, and I can't afford it. I'm a little teeny company.
So Sheila, explain how that, because you have separate attorneys, correct?
Yes, yes. So we have so McLean is handling 3M, and another firm is handling us and Plymouth. And Charlie's actually signed on as a farmer because he's got a farm in Santa Harbor and he's used our sales forever. So he's sort of this lone farmer guy. But
Sorry, I didn't wear my overall.
Terry Testori
Just go ahead.
is our legal counsel, and so she works closely with the McLean group, but she's sort of looking out for us as a separate entity. And that would be who this group could join on with.
Right, and so what I heard you say was that they're looking for each community to contribute $1,000. That's it,
That's it.
the lawsuit.
It's done.
And you have own separate counsel, but 3M is paying for the rest.
Yep, they have an agreement with them that they will cover all of the rest of the expenses.
So for Tilton, we could do $250 for the Tilton Northfield Water District, $250 for the Lockmere Water District, $250 for the Sewer Commission, and $250 for the town to get to the 1,000?
That's brilliant, because then all of those names are on the stand list.
That's doable.
And 3M is asking the same thing, do it over.
Yes.
And that's it.
So, and why New Hampshire, why now? So 3M is facing, challenges around the country, as you can imagine. But New Hampshire is different in that we have a statutory requirement to follow a process. So they're not challenging the limit, they're challenging you didn't follow the process.
Okay.
And so if they have to go back to process, that's another opportunity to say, get the science right.
That's our common ground.
So that's it. And, it's interesting for me because as a business owner, it could put me out of business personally, but bigger than that is that I serve on the New Hampshire Municipal Association Board with Jeannie, and I've been working for municipalities my whole life, and so I see this as a huge threat to our way of governance. I don't think you should be able to slam dunk it through, and having worked with the assistant commissioner and watching him chase, I'm really disappointed. I was at that jail car hearing, I had my pink card in there along with 30 other people, and they said, not interested. That's not New Hampshire. Not at all.
So you need a decision from us, so we could talk about next week, and
So we've been to court once and we provided it on the day that the new rules were going to go in place, because you want to have standing so that you all don't start spending money. That's why we want an injunction, because once you do, you lose that ability to backpedal on the unfunded mandate, which I know you don't like, but it is part of the argument. And so we went on that day, and then the judge asked us to come back on the 18th. So we'll be going next Friday. And at that point, if you are going to be joining us, it would be nice to know before then, only because
We need to make a decision tonight.
all communities. Okay.
But
We'll get some-
I'm
talk
not
a little
gonna,
later.
yeah.
We need to
But
make a
keep
decision
moving.
tonight, because
Yeah.
we can't make it
Tough.
Thursday and get back to her Friday morning and say, oh yeah, we're gonna be on it. Because then it's too late to.
Is that too late, Sheila, if they meet next Thursday?
It would be really great to be able to have that in advance so that we can notice the judge. And we've submitted affidavits that would, we'd want to be able to submit one for you as well. And it's very simple. It just says, we agree with this lawsuit and are joining as plaintiffs. So, but it's, it's a do-over. It's all. I'm not going to argue the merits of how much or how little. It's just a do-over.
Is next Tuesday too late to let you know?
That'd be great.
Sewer Commission meets on Tuesday.
Yeah, but then we can't meet after that.
And we can discuss it tonight, I don't know if she'll do that one with discussion.
Yeah, it's
So we
just that
can-
we're, our agenda, and I'm trying to keep on the agenda, but we
We
can talk.
very much appreciate being invited
There's no
and
reason why we can't make a
being considered
motion
for a conversation.
whether sewer
And
joints.
it'll be a long one coming. We're going to be talking about PFAS for a long time. So,
Thanks, Sheila.
thank you
Thanks,
for
Joanne.
your time. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming. Yeah.
Learned a lot, appreciate it.
Figure it out how to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Divvy it up,
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you
Exactly.
very much.
Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah.
Whoa, thank you. Whoa.
Hello.
Budget update.
Well, and a few other things.
This doesn't look like a budget.
Because they didn't complete it. They didn't give us all the information that it asked for.
All right. So, first of all, I handed out the budget last week, and be happy to answer any questions on it. There's only been one change. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit on my list, but there's only been one change to it, which was updating for the health insurance, which is a 7.4% increase. And so that took us from a reduction in our department request operating budget of, from the reduction of $29,014 from 2019's budget to an increase of $11,294. So basically it was a $40,808 increase. There are, when we get to getting into details about the types of plans offered, there's some assumptions made here as to percentage of offset for the HRA plan. So this includes maintaining the 25% offset. So it would be less without that. But in any case, so those numbers are plugged in, and that is what you see on the last page of my report, and that just updates the department totals. And that was really the only change that's been made from last week's budget document. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any on that document. And
On the budget,
yes,
you can't seem to get IT down just a little bit more from the, on percentage wise?
well, I'd be happy to go through when I come in to do the departmental review of it, and we can go through all the lines and all the items that make up that. But
What's the major, I'm sorry, I gotta take this in my boss. Hold that question.
so I'll just go over some housekeeping then. Item number 1 is borrowing, which is a TAN request. We are going to need that signed tonight.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Is that a little more than we usually borrow?
No,
I thought
no,
we were about 700.
it depends. I try to hold off as long as possible, and right now I've held off as long as I possibly can. We also have an invoice that's in your manifest for $111,000 for the architect Goodrow and Associates. So until such time that we borrow specifically for that, either wrapping it into an overall building bond or finance it separately, we've got to make those payments out of our cash flow. So. And we have, with the authorization we had at town meeting last year, we have 5 years to, to finance it. So I'm not anticipating that's going to be the case, but in any case, all right. So this, we'll go through these items, or Pat, if you want to ask your question.
No, when we go over the budget individually, are we gonna go over, again, the increase, like the 5% for land use?
Yes, yeah, we'll go through,
Individually.
we'll go through in detail and,
Okay. I'm good.
okay. All those items that did result in an increase were noted in the notes under each department too, so,
The reason why I asked is because we were anticipating some changes, and I was wondering if that was part of it. I didn't want to get into it because I know we're on a time constraint, but I
Well-
was just wondering if that increase was part of those
yes,
changes.
there,
Okay.
there is, and I'm actually going to be talking about that in item number 6 on the second page. I think, if I know what
Yep.
you're referring to.
Yep.
Item number 2 is, as you may recall, when we first started talking about the budget, there are about 4 different agreements that Jeannie and I are requesting either be renewed or entered into with the same company that we've been dealing with. So one is with Health Trust for our health insurance. One is for Primex for our property liability, workers' comp, and unemployment insurance. One is for Avatar for our assessing and revalid services. And then the last one is for our auditing services, which is now Roberge. Pardon me?
They changed, didn't they?
Yes, so the principal had retired, Steve Grislak, and he sold the company to the person that we've been dealing with these years, which is Jim Roberge. And in fact, they are waiting to take up their residence. They used to be located over in Belmont, over by Union Road, and there's a building that's being completed over by Franklin Savings Bank on Central Street, just over the town line. And you may have seen it if you've looked down that road that goes into Northfield. And yeah, Cross Mill, right. So that's where they're going to be located. But in any event, they've held the price from prior years, and they're willing to hold it through the 3 years of this engagement agreement. So I have the agreement with me. It is one of, as I said, one of these 4 that we'll be seeking to get agreement on through the end of this year. And I have places for all 5 to sign if you so wish to do that tonight. So the recommendation, not only from me, but also from Joanna, is that we'd like to keep this auditing firm. We really have it down to a science where we are able to do our audits in a very efficient process and still make sure, they challenge us, but we have a working relationship where we're able to really make use of some economies of scale. We're able to prepare things. We have things already prepared by the end of the year in format that we know that they need, and just cuts down a lot of time.
They're maintaining their pricing. and
Yes.
That's very good. How is their pricing compared to other people's pricing? Are they the spendy one, or are they in the middle of the road?
I think they're more in the middle of the road. I've asked around. There's, I think, from what I can tell, there's more expensive. I don't want to say their name, but
I'm just wondering
M&H.
because I know they've done us right in the past.
Yeah, what about P&S?
They're going to be about the same, maybe a little bit less, I think, but it really depends because our activity is significantly higher in some areas. So
They're used to doing our stuff too.
So they have held the price
yes.
for the same exact services, or did they cut some of the services?
No, actually, they've the only services that they've had to, they haven't cut any services. It's just that some things they are not able to advise us on where they might have done something for us in the past. The requirement is that we can have a discussion about it, but we have to be the ones to do it. So there's some, that in years ago, an auditor would tell you, oh, well, you need to make these journal entries to make this work out. Well, according to the Government Accounting Standards Board, that's not acceptable. You're supposed to know what journal entries you need to make to be able to have things work out. This is a very simplistic discussion, but it's really, That's pretty much the extent of it. In other words, they can't act as a consultant and an auditor in one. And that goes back to the Arthur Anderson and, gosh, all the accounting scandals that went on where, one side of the house was acting in one capacity and another side was acting in another capacity. So the Government Accounting Standards Board adopted the same sort of philosophy in just much smaller scope to where you can have the discussions, you can understand the situation, but it's up to you, it's up to the town to be able to make those decisions, because ultimately there are decisions and how they impact us, and then they would, in their audit, are going to pass judgment as to whether those are audit points or not.
So they're essentially going to provide the same services that.
Yeah, and I have to say, they're really wonderful. I came across something recently that was a real head scratcher, and just in terms of how to handle something, it wasn't pertaining to an audit, but it was an accounting issue. And after about an 8-minute conversation, we had it figured out, and it was terrific.
Very nice.
So I just can't say enough good things about them.
I have a question about that. We've had the same auditor for many, many years, and a lot of companies or municipalities will switch auditors. I don't know if it's because maybe somebody would notice something else that perhaps somebody else didn't notice, or a different style, or they weren't aware of that, or perhaps the auditor doing all at the same time becomes a little complacent to things. Do they always have the same person doing this audit, or are they switching out the people who you?
So the two people that come in to do it take different areas, different times, but they also, I just sort of envision this roulette wheel back in their office where they're selecting things, because one year there's a huge focus on this area, and another area they're pulling apart something else. So, and that's very typical of auditors. They don't do things in a in a way that you can anticipate what they're going to do year to year. There were times when we've had such extensive expenditure auditing that I've thought I'm never going to get out of it. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of items. And going all the way through the process to make sure that the Board of Selectmen had authorized the expenditure, the treasurer had made the payment, all the way through to the bank reconciliation. And I mean, it gets old after a while, but you think, well, gee, they must be looking for something. Well, yeah, that's their job, So, but then another year.
The person that performs it's been different each year.
No, well, it's the same team, but they do divvy up different things, with the exception of the final report is the highest level person. So, but I can tell you, in going through tax accounts, there have been different focuses from year to year. I don't know if there's a randomness or a set methodology that they use to be able to determine what to pick and what to audit, but it is it's always an extensive and exhausting process on our part. I was kind of smiling when you were saying that, because I feel like it always is a challenge, in that regard. Although I know.
I can only imagine that if you had somebody else who would be even more of a challenge, because they're going to start fresh.
Well,
thing to do every once in a while.
It's the overhead. Well, there are two aspects to that: a pro and a con. The pro is what you just mentioned, that you get somebody totally different looking at it. Some of these firms, the ones that are less expensive, from what I understand from my colleagues, is that they often have the newest people, going out the green behind the ears, and sometimes that takes a little bit longer, on the part of the staff. You kind of, you're their proving ground, and they're learning how to audit while they're going through the process. The pro to having a firm like this is that they've got great institutional memory and documentation on our town financially. And as you know, it's getting more and more years from that point in time, but there was a point in time when they were really the only solid thread we had financially. And there is still a period of time which, you know, that I don't worry about, because I know that they would be able to, if ever there were an issue, a bond issue or something else that went back to those days, that they would be able to answer that. Now, that's not to say that we couldn't retain them to do that on a per hour basis if ever anything ever came up like that. We did have an issue with USDA at one point at the beginning of one of our the sewer bonds, and it was a real serious auditing issue that was pertaining to the large project and some of the issues with that. And they were really instrumental in helping to sort that out and get through that. So, I mean, it's you know, yeah, could we save money? Yes, by the check that we write. Are we going to save money in my time and Joanna's time and the Cindy's time and others that are dealing with the audit? Probably not. It'd probably be, you know, more time spent. You know, it's not a out-of-pocket cost, but there is a indirect cost with that. So, with that being said, if the board is feeling so inclined, oh, you have a question?
I make a motion that we engage Robert and Company for the 3 years spanning 2019 through 2021 in the auditing services.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved, unanimous.
I do have one question.
Yes.
How much is the contract per year?
It's $16,350 for the town. I believe the sewer commission pays $27.50. And then we have a separate for our actuarial that we're required to maintain. That's through Jefferson Company. It's a different company. And we're going into our second year of a 2-year contract with that. Moving on, just one note on the budget that I wanted to mention, and my apologies for sending out late about the outside agencies that appeared last night. And I did ask the Budget Secretary, Marina, to try to copy the Board of Selectmen when they have outside agencies coming in, so that you're aware of who's coming in if you wish to attend and listen to their presentations. So they are meeting weekly also, as you know, so 7 p.m. Wednesdays, right here. Item number 4 and 5 relate to our tax rate setting. So we received notification today that of a direct deposit from the state for what's entitled municipal aid. And this is part of the new budget, which I'm sure Jeannie could probably answer some questions on, but there was a little over $400,000 of money earmarked for Tilton. Roughly $250,000 of that was for our school costs, and $150,000 of that was for municipal aid. DRA is, if you remember, shared revenue. DRA is considering this municipal aid shared revenue, which is really nothing more than just a categorization of it that used to exist and they did away with years ago. I believe at our height we received about $229,000 in shared revenue on an annual basis. So the last time that we were fully funded on that. So in any event, this is a good thing. It's a windfall. We received $71,161.39, which is the first part of that $150,000. It is somewhat short of what we had anticipated in the first payment for state's fiscal year 2020, but this was, as I said, a direct deposit notification we received. So I don't know as yet what happened to the difference, if there is a difference, or if the original number was an estimate, but we will find out.
You remember I showed you that document last week, and it showed $75,000 per year. So for whatever reason, the check that came in was 71.
So, in any event, there are, without any other activity with this revenue, it would go to fund balance, which could then be used to offset the tax rate, which is going to be my ultimate recommendation when we get to the tax rate portion. But it can also be used for other projects. The only requirement is to hold a public hearing first for that. So, in any event, if you flip the page over on item number 5, and again, this is all sort of working towards this tax rate setting. So we are doing well for the year. We're about $110,000 under our expense plan right now, at least how it looks going into the end of the year. And we have a good chance of exceeding our revenue budget for the year. So, yes.
Why is that?
Well, several reasons, and the biggest are personnel in terms of expense. We've had people out on disability, we've had people who've left, and it's been a certain period of time before we've been able to replace, and not always at the same rate, that sort of thing. So, so I would say that's the majority, of the savings. And the revenues, I'm usually conservative on the revenues when we're budgeting. We've been doing very well with motor vehicles. Apparently there is no end to the appetite for new vehicles. There's a lot of them and a lot of money coming in for it. So in any event, we're looking like we're going to end up well for the end of the year. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Next week, I will have to the state, I'm working on right now, our revenue projection through the end of the year, which will get through a review process at DRA. And then the only two things that we will have to adjust are overlay and fund balance. And I'll be able to bring a laptop in next week, and we can talk about fund balance and what that's going to mean to the tax rate. And I'll actually be able to show you what the tax rate is at the different fund balance levels. And we can literally finalize it right at the table. And then within a day or two, the tax rate will be finalized by the commissioner. It's looking very likely that, and my recommendation is going to be that we are able to offset about 80% of the cost of the land purchase. So about $280,000 is what I'm hoping to do between our fund balance and from 2018 and how we're looking through the end of the year. So that's just a little preview. But next week, when we have the numbers without any of that, you'll be able to make a decision, and I'll also have all the other pertinent numbers for you. So you'll see what our fund balance currently is, where it would end up after that, and there is some possibility for improvement before the end of the year in terms of expenses, even including item number 6, which are some projects that we would like to see acted upon before the end of the year, or at least encumbered going into 2020. So of these, the first one is we have made great strides, and I'll defer to Jeannie to talk about this employee, but we've had an intern, as you know, paid, 2/3 of which have been paid through a grant for this year, and he's been working primarily on standard operating procedure and process documents, and just doing an incredible job helping us to be much more consistent and fluid in our processes, so that there's a lot less confusion, a lot less going back and forth between people, and documenting this so that we have a really good way of seeing all the steps in a process. So one of this first item is that we would like to retain him. He's going to be done with the grant just prior to the end of the month, and we'd like to retain him for 10 weeks at his 24 hours a week, which is at $18 an hour, which is a little less than what he's been paid, and including taxes and loaded costs through the end of the year would be $4,650 at that amount. So, and Jeannie,
Yeah, so Jacob has been working on the standard operating procedures manual, as well as, I think he's been working with you on the CIP process, and he's just been an overall help wherever he's been needed, but with some of the things that are going on in land use, there are opportunities for him to help up in land use as well. Having a conversation with Leanne, she's talked about some things that she'd like to get done. I'll give you an example: develop an online tracking system for the planning board application and zoning board applications, which includes submission through approval, particularly tracking conditions of approval. Now, so where she came from, you know, anyone could go and see where everything is happening and how it's flowed, and that we don't have that here. So it's a little bit of a kind of a mess, if you will, and she would like to see that happen in land use, so that if she got hit by, again, it's that standard operating procedure. If she got hit by a bus tomorrow, somebody'd be able to go in and find out where these things are at. So that's one of the items that she had talked about, that if she had that time to have somebody to help her with that, that's how she'd be using him. She also talked about the tax maps, overlays to include zoning and groundwater resource districts, as well as identifying parcels served by the public sewer and water. So I think, you know, in the short time that she's been here, she's found some kind of gaps, some things that could be improved in land use, and that's how she would use them.
So that is, that's one of the items, which, as I said, $46.50. The second and third items pertain to cameras. So you may recall that at Public Works, we had gotten a quote years ago on a surveillance system there, which was a comprehensive system similar to what we have at Town Hall and the police station. And one of the major requirements down there was to have the impound lot lit and surveilled. And as you will see, we are unable to keep certain types of vehicles there because we are not in compliance without that surveillance and lighting with federal, yes.
We built this thing recently, right? Relatively recently.
13, 14, 15?
All right, the last 5 years.
Mhm.
Did the standards change?
I don't know.
Because it seems silly to build an impound yard in a place that doesn't comply with impound yard regulations.
Wherever
Just
you-
saying.
Wherever you built it, you would need that. So it wasn't the location, it was the fact. And Joe, why didn't we hear this when we designed it?
We
and
could put them in then.
Cost.
The feds
Well,
would require a camera and a light.
gotta check them on
I don't know whether the PD was aware of it at the time.
Yeah, we'll talk to them.
We have since learned.
But nevertheless,
Yeah.
in order for it to comply, that's what it needs.
Right, and I think the chief even put as much in his report a few weeks ago to the board regarding the vehicles that they had impounded that they were unable to store there.
So the 13,000.
So where are they stored?
I believe, I don't know for a fact. I would recommend asking the chief. I don't know.
The 13,000 you're.
Please tell me that you,
No, I really don't know.
you
for a fact.
really honestly don't
I do not
know.
know for a fact. I do not know for a fact.
I'll hold you to that.
Yep, I really don't.
And you
I
have
suspect, but I don't know.
13,000?
So that
Was
was
that for the entire system?
everything. Yeah,
Everything.
that-
So what would it cost for us just to have the light and camera that's required for the impound?
Well, and so I wasn't going to go back to them and redo all this if the board didn't want to investigate it. So I just wanted to check with the board first. I can get those costs.
I would say, for me, yes.
I want to talk to the chief. He's coming tonight, isn't he?
But regardless of the noise, we need it for them to store them there. So,
Well, how many, there was a couple, right? But how many cars does this actually effect. 2.
What does it
Oh,
matter?
there's been a van in there for how long?
If we have to
That's not
impound
effective.
vehicles that require this,
Well, my understanding is that there is, for us to get, for us to participate in the
Forfeiture money.
the forfeiture money, thank you, that, that we've got to adhere to the federal standards of
Correct.
seizure and
Okay.
all
and
that.
even if the federal standards didn't require it, wouldn't we want a surveillance camera and a light there anyway?
I am simply just suggesting that this is an opportunity to remedy that. So I just wanted to make sure before I went through any work on my part or involving anybody else that the board was willing to investigate it. So it sounds as though you are.
Get her down.
So I shall go through that process. The item C is relating to adding a camera out at this back corner of the building where we have one that faces down to the School Street, Main Street intersection. But as it's been pointed out, there are oftentimes people that are heading back to the parking lot late at night, and so this has been brought up to me a few times by different employees, and having a camera facing that way, it'd be not a very big cost to this. I'll get a price on it, but having an IR illuminator looking that direction, and also a camera looking that direction. So this has been a request from employees. And then also it gives us an opportunity, and in it all told, I think we're probably talking of all these items that are listed here, probably no more than 22,000 max.
You have that in the budget?
I have identified areas that I think if we can tighten our belt going into the end of the year, we can accomplish some of those things, if not all of them. And still end up in a place where we can offset that land purchase. Jeannie has a list of some of these items, but I also wanted to mention too that we've set aside the money that we expected and budgeted for the air conditioning, so that if we're able to get these quotes to a final place where they can be acted on by the end of the year and encumbered, we've set aside the money for that, so that there are monies that are sort of in a holding pattern waiting for the remainder of the work in order for Jeannie to bring it to the board.
Why wouldn't we use the air conditioning money for air conditioning?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
In
I
other words,
thought you meant for
that's
this other
no,
project.
that's been set aside and it's waiting for that. But
Well,
if-
what are D? What are D?
what RD? Well, that is Jeannie.
What are D?
Yeah, it
What-
says
what
D.
estimates?
There are a few
Okay.
projects. What are they?
Okay, so I came to this board, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, asking about downstairs space for the land use office. And I think the reaction I got was there wasn't really an appetite for that because there was a feeling we needed that space as meeting space. So alternatively, what I'm suggesting is, much like we did downstairs, upstairs, put a wall so that they have an office with a door that they can get into. And then you can have your meetings here, and they can have their private space over there without being interrupted.
Does that include like floor to ceiling? Is that
No, it goes up.
something like this?
Sort of like the copy room downstairs, it goes up so high, and then it will go across. And I've talked to Al about bringing the filing cabinets from, if we wanted to go a step further, bringing those upstairs. Here, the floor could support the filing cabinets and get them up here with land use where they should be. And then that gives the space, again, it gives them the privacy, gives them an office. And you
I'm
still
looking
have,
over there, and there's nobody there now while we're meeting. Town hall closes,
but they have,
the office space is closed at what, 4:20? 4:30?
no, the employees have been up here while we've been having meetings. And
Yeah,
then
they
there
have.
are other meetings
Leanne
that
has.
happen here.
Sometimes they
Um,
don't show up because
How come those meetings don't take place downstairs if the employees are working?
Because there can be an example of somebody, let's say somebody, Bernie, looking through whatever he's doing. Or,
Yeah, that was recent.
right, he had everything laid out on the tables out there so that we needed to come upstairs to meet. So she's over there trying to do her work. And all I'm asking is, just like every other employee has, is a space that they can have some kind of sense of it's their space. The way it is now, that's open space, people walk in, walk out, set stuff down, look around. I think it's a good alternative to, if you're not gonna be, if the idea of downstairs doesn't work.
How far out is the wall gonna
It
come?
would probably come out 4 feet and then go that way. We've already measured their space.
was that the definitive action on the downstairs? 'Cause I arrived 15
Well-
minutes late on that meeting and
Well,
I don't know if I got.
There
We
wasn't,
talked
but
about it, but I don't think we chose.
no, but it seemed like there was pushback. And I'm just trying to come up with a
Something.
solution for the employees.
So 4 feet more than what we see? Certainly not 4 feet from the wall.
No.
What if you moved them downstairs, as you would like to move them downstairs, and walled that off into a meeting room, another conference room, and so the people that usually meet downstairs can meet here while we have meetings here.
That's-
So if Parks is downstairs and Budget is here, they have 2 meetings.
It doesn't really matter to me. The end result or the goal that I'm trying to achieve is to give land use their office.
Right, and that would achieve that.
And one of the things we just ran into the other day, when we're down at the PD, we don't have any space in this, and so we had this discussion after, we don't have any space in this building if you needed to have a confidential meeting. So there was a discussion of possibly still creating that wall down there, so that room would be a conference room with a door, and you could go in and
This
have
could be,
meetings.
That's why we put the table in there, and that's one of the reasons we put the wall.
We have to put more lighting in there, because you can't see the documents that you're trying to read, Captain.
Well, you can put more lights in there. I mean,
Put an extension cord.
I bought a light. Put it in there. That's easy. So land use. To wall this off with a permanent wall, you would come, I'm not sure how far out, but you said 4 feet, but
4 feet from where the elevator door
So
is.
4 feet out
Right.
from the wall of
Right.
the elevator.
Yep.
Oh,
So is that roughly to the end of that table?
So, yeah.
About where the table ends.
Middle of the.
And sections like we have around.
so it would be right here, right, Jeannie?
Yeah,
Down to
Yeah.
the other end?
right.
When you say to the other end, where the top of the stairs comes or past the file
No,
cabinet?
right to the end of the file cabinet, right there. Yeah,
Right there.
Basically, it would be
yes.
right here.
I say that would make a great meeting room or over that side and then go
Well,
down
the
with land
problem
use.
over at this side is you've got,
Move land use downstairs and just create a meeting room up here. We have 2 meeting rooms.
I like the meeting room downstairs the way it is. I think if you start walling off downstairs, you have to remember the town clerk's safe is there, that they have to have access to.
they would.
Where are you gonna put avatars?
They would. With a wall, it would follow.
I went down there and pasted off with the design I had. Talk about being in a cubbyhole.
Where those filing cabinets are right now, the wall would follow there. So she still has access to the safe. That's still like.
But you're gonna put all of that in that.
Put all of what?
Land
All the
use.
filing cabinets.
There's land use, right there, I'm looking at it.
Yep.
I'm not gonna fit in that space, like I said, I went down there and
I don't believe they were taking everything with them.
When I asked, it was Al, Sheena, and Leanne.
Yes.
But not all those desks are going
Right.
down.
And
They have
There's
smaller
There's
desks.
one extra desk right there.
There's also printers downstairs.
Well, I guess, look, the employees have worked it out, we think we can make it work, we want to make it work, we want to make the employees happy, and so either, I guess you don't trust us, that we know how to make this work, and we don't do anything. Or you trust that we know how to make it work.
It isn't a matter of trust, it's a matter of space and usage. It isn't that we don't
It's a matter
trust.
of having the people that are here that with longevity, like the fire commissioners, and saying, I'm sorry, we don't have a place for you anymore.
And
It's
that
not a
was-
question about
Right.
trust.
And that, well, that was my solution of bringing the wall up here. So
Right.
you have your room downstairs, because you wanted that meeting room downstairs.
And I can say that in terms of having two different meeting rooms, I think it makes a lot of sense to have them on different floors, because you get a lot of milling around before or after, and if there were a meeting room up here, I think it could be disruptive if there were another meeting going on, as people are coming and going. But
So,
the cost, did you have the?
I had a question that remained
$1,200.
unanswered. Partition, the office sectional walls like we have around the sewer would not work.
No, they're not high enough.
But it's worked for sewer.
But she's not here at night.
But she's been over there when we've had meetings in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah, they bugged her plenty of times.
I don't know
Well,
that.
what they're trying to do is soundproof an area for them, basically, so you need a
Happy
ceiling.
employee is an effective, productive employee.
I think,
Do you have somebody that, have you priced it out?
I had Kevin come up and look at it, and he said he could do it.
I'd like to say that
$400.
we can ask the fire commissioners, and we can ask them if they could meet or adjust their times. We could make some other provisions for meetings if that room is given up. But if we don't have employees that are happy in a comfortable environment and where they feel they can work together, we're not gonna have employees. They're just gonna come and go, and it's kind of like a mishmash that we put their desks in the corner there. And if they'd really like to be down where the public comes in and be able to meet with them, I think that we should cater to the
It was
employees,
land use that wanted to move up here in the first place.
not the present employees.
So we're gonna move, every time we have a new person in the department, we're gonna move them to where they want.
Chinese fire drill.
I think when we hired our town administrator, we asked for specific changes and things that could help with employee, with the workflow, with the operations of the town hall, and those suggestions, and to increase morale and things like that. And we just got it, and we're saying, tough luck.
No,
Well,
we're having a conversation.
We
I'd
have,
rather build a wall up here, I
So
think.
Leanne is good with that? Would there be one door in? Okay, so she's looked at these plans for this,
Yes,
and Al has,
I talked to Al today.
okay, and they're good with it.
you're asking.
Good enough for me.
I think the separation of meeting spaces is a good element. I don't think all of that's gonna fit in that space downstairs, or it'll be cluttered, just what I see in my mind. And although I hate building walls, that sounds like the best solution, I think.
I think so too.
But also moving
We
those.
have a conversation going here, it's just the selectmen, but we do have somebody in the audience that wanted to make comments. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Good.
Did you already get an answer?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, a few weeks ago, when the conversation started, the emphasis wasn't about employee satisfaction, it was about customer satisfaction and the amount of footsteps of customer traffic, who the employees are here to take care of, the taxpayers and the customers. And there was another conversation about making Tilton more accessible and inviting to business and business-friendly and customer-friendly and to out the public. Now, I get getting the employees happy has an impact on that, and that's tied together. But there was also a discussion about having your customer-facing departments that interact with the public the most, all on the first floor for accessibility to your customer base and the public. And that was the pendulum swung that way, And now it's swinging the other way of letting employees get behind walls. Yeah, they can have walls there, you know. I just don't know where that conversation ended as far as number of footsteps, number of applications that come through building and planning and all that, and the amount of that customer volume, where you wanted to put that into your building for a security standpoint and for a service standpoint.
Thanks.
Just, I don't know where that ended.
Thanks.
That's it.
Did you address lighting? I'm looking at,
Yeah, we have to put some lights on.
okay. I'm good with it.
I like having it downstairs. I just don't think there's enough room in that space. I think it'd work better up here logistically.
So-
But I see the up and down the stairs for the people. We do
Have a
have
lift.
we do have a lift, so it's.
So why don't, at least, it sounds like we're heading in that direction. Why don't we come up with a floor plan for up here to show you exactly what we're talking about I'll come back next week with that.
So we're keeping the land use here, the second
Well,
meeting
I-
room stays downstairs?
What if the
At this
second
point.
meeting room was in there and we put extra lighting in there?
That's not enough.
It's non
That's not-
It's not handicapped accessible
Yeah.
either.
Yes, it's not.
Then why didn't you bring it up earlier?
Me?
Because
I
it
did.
is an option if you have people like the police,
That, what?
your.
Speak up.
Yeah,
Negotiations.
union committee there,
Negotiations.
negotiating committee could have been up there.
Provide nobody's.
They're not, none of them were ADA, so you have that option. Can we, so while we're talking about space, do we still need that table here?
No, and I would see, I'd like to see, I mean, we've got those cabinets back there with all that historical stuff, and we got stuff all over it. I'd like to see that gone, and, you know,
Well,
like that.
and if those
So
cabinets
yes,
come up,
I'd like to
if
streamline.
the assessing files come up, it could be that the display cabinets could go downstairs in that room,
Mhm.
where, you know, more people would be able to see
More
it.
people would be able to
In
see.
what room?
In downstairs in the hall, or, you know, the back of that wall. It's closed off.
Yeah, they could go anywhere.
Statues.
But that one time, the selectmen agreed
So
to, we didn't need this one.
put together Plan B,
All right,
or
I
C,
will.
or whatever.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
What
you
about
for
the
your work
cabinets
on
up
that
there?
issue.
The statues are going over there.
Yeah, but they don't weigh anything. Those things weigh.
They're very heavy.
It's up there.
Structurally,
How do you get the top floor?
comes like this.
Don't want to touch them.
Well, no, that's true. They won't be able to get to it.
Well, that's a good thing.
Just saying that Kevin moved those statues, and he said they're very, very heavy.
So, so just to reiterate, those items A through D are some of the ones that we're looking at, and we'll clearly be bringing you more information before the end of the year. Is there any
So we
information
were moving it up here, right, we're building a wall.
Yes.
You're gonna,
coming up with Plan B?
We're getting a design.
on a wall?
Take a look at either option.
Yeah.
Because we have to decide either yet.
Okay.
I
And
have a question. So the budget committee met last night. They have scheduled for the outside agencies to come in. I assume they're giving those outside agencies some kind of notice for next week.
I don't know the schedule that the secretary has arranged. for
Yes, the
outside
secretary
agencies.
has arranged for dates for them to come in.
But we don't know those dates.
That's correct.
So does that mean we're gonna require all of those agencies to come in and?
There were 3 of them
meet
last
with us?
night. Old Home Day,
I saw the list, but I saw the list yesterday,
Community Action, and YAP.
and I couldn't make it. I already had arrangements. So my question is, are we, the Board of Selectmen, going to have all those agencies come in here because we're not getting notified
Well, Tim has,
timely? Yes, but this is already Thursday.
Well, I
24
don't,
hours ago they met.
I have no,
He doesn't have.
no information
Right.
from them, from the budget committee, so
So we can request that they kind of schedule.
I have-
weekly.
I have
Keep
requested
updated.
that.
Well,
Tim's requested it already.
That's what I said in the beginning, that
and I'm
that they're
saying we
meeting
haven't
weekly.
gotten it yet.
Well,
Could we follow
Express
up
our-
on that?
We were
Express
getting it 2 weeks
disappointment.
prior. I mean, we're getting a month's worth. Now, we're not. So I'm asking,
We have a
Should
new
we go back-
secretary,
should
so-
we go back to scheduling, having them come here, just talk with us and go to the budget committee?
I think when we have a new secretary,
I
that,
know this.
that might have been a glitch in it,
I
and we
think
can get
that-
that straightened out, I think.
the three that were scheduled yesterday, we should probably ask to come in if you want to have community action or YAP or Old Home Day, those three. But as soon as the secretary gets Tim's notice, I don't know what time of day he sent it out, but she's probably pretty effective that she'll send out next week's agenda to all of us.
So the answer is yes, if we don't get them in time, we'll schedule them to come before us.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not just getting the next week's agenda, right?
It's
It's
on-
all scheduled.
They're
Weeks
on
out.
the agenda.
I'm not certain they're all confirmed. That's the way
Usually-
I understood it.
Usually, we schedule it out tentatively.
She has the dates on it. Do you want the whole date? Is that what you want? You want
Yeah,
the
for
whole
the
list
calendar,
for
yeah,
everybody that's already confirmed?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
As we used to.
I'll ask the chair to send that out.
So other than that, I'll just leave you with items A to consider, and then B and C, I'll work on getting some pricing.
And A?
Next, A is
8.
8. Yes, I'm getting that. So next week, as I mentioned, we'll go through and we'll set the tax rate next week. We'll have a preliminary rate. We'll be able to set the overlay and the fund balance. And then within days, we should have our rate. And then number 8, so this pertains to events that happened earlier this week. And if you had seen the email I sent out earlier today about beware, Halloween's not only a scary thing this time of year, but there was an email that was a spoofed email in the state of New Hampshire, sent from what looked like a selectman of that town to the chief of police. The chief of police opened it, thinking that, oh, my selectman has sent me something. Opened the document. The document took them to a website for them to log in. They tried to log in. The website and the people that had set this up, it looked like just what they would normally log into. They were able to tell what they were using. They set it up to sort of mirror their environment, collected their credentials, and were able to take over the chief's email and sent out to their address book, essentially, all sorts of links to malware. So that if you got malware, so that if you were dealing with this chief on a regular basis and you think, oh, so-and-so sent me an email, you open it up, if you click on the link, you are then susceptible to the malware intrusion. So there's that, and there's also a school system in the area that has been suffering denial of service attacks on a regular basis. So they're one day I believe they were down 6 or 7 hours, another day 4 hours, other times anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, where they're just crippled because they're getting repeatedly attacked and they're unable to access the network resources. So the Board of Selectmen had made a motion, and I don't have the exact date, but made a motion affecting password policies for me to relax those policies. And I would just ask that this not be a decision of the Board of Selectmen, but that you allow me to act as appropriately from time to time, that if we need to increase security on something, I can do that. without having to first come to the Board of Selectmen and have you vote on it, or have you make decisions on a basis like that when they might need to be made in a more timely basis. I'm just asking for that decision to be rescinded.
I believe when we made that decision, the anticipation is you were gonna come in and explain to us.
Which would
Why?
have to be done in a non-public, because it refers to, you know, how our security is set, what our current policies are, and so I could.
When
It
that
would just
took
have to be done in a
place-
non-public.
When that took place, a lot of selectmen could not retrieve any emails.
That's correct.
I still can't.
We couldn't even open our phone up, never
Even
mind.
though Rand did it, I still can't. In fact, I eliminated Town of Tilton from my computer at home.
And the entire board did not vote on it. It was a request by the chairman to have you do it, and you did it. It wasn't a request by the board.
Well, I would be happy to schedule a non-public then with the board, so I can explain myself and also indicate why those changes were made. So I'll make sure I get on your schedule for that. But thank you for the time tonight, and thank you for,
I just want to clarify, I did not request to Tim to change everybody's password. I want to make that very clear.
no, that's
It was,
correct.
we asked about 2 years ago, and I asked how that was going,
That's
and then
correct.
Tim rolled it out. So it was not, I did not contact Tim and say, change everybody's
That's
password.
correct. The changes had been made at the police department for various reasons, and those changes, it just made sense to extrapolate those out to all town employees,
But
because
whatever you did, you locked us out for days. Out of town business for days.
It worked.
Yes, it worked. That was not the intention, and there may have been some training issues that I could have done better to prepare people for it, but it is what it is, and and I'll stand by it. The protection of our assets, our data assets, are just really, really important. So, in terms of working towards rescinding that, or modifying it in such a way, I will get on your agenda at a future point in time, and just hope that we are fine until then. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
I think we're waiting on the chief. He's not here yet.
Well, we have,
We have an active crime scene right now
Oh.
at Crosstown, so he's off there.
you want to come down and talk to us anyway on the
We
tree
wanna talk to the chief.
on the tree speaks?
It's not gonna matter, that's not fair.
He did talk to me when I walked in, and he
Well-
wanted me to sit, it's all you guys.
It's redundancy, because we're gonna ask for the chief to come in and ask him to explain what's going on anyway. And no offense to Abe whatsoever, but we're gonna ask for the chief's opinion again, and we're already an hour behind.
I'm still wondering why we're asking for the chief's opinion instead of following the traffic engineer's opinion
So-
for road layouts.
How, would you guys like to just skip over this? Or do you want to hear what he's got for information?
I'd like to hear what he has for information. We can.
So just, I guess, a
I mean,
brief
this all
synopsis?
very-
You're here, let's not make it a wasted trip in my personal.
There's
What you got?
being brought up to me, hopefully.
You maybe want to
Yes,
sit
Mike.
near the.
Yeah.
I'm used to that seat, that's why.
Say hi to Gail.
And say hello to Gail.
All right. Hello, Gail. So, the tree streets. Most of the area that we looked today a little bit, and then I guess last year, 2 years ago, Stephen Pernaw and company, I guess, had drafted out. I think everybody has this, right? Does everybody have?
Well, at one time.
At one time or not, okay.
Certainly.
Still
So,
have mine.
what's that?
I still have mine.
Still have yours? So pretty much what it comes down to is, we want to obviously know when to park on the sidewalks. Well, in those areas, there's no distinguished sidewalk as in raised curb, but there is a line. The line at this point is faded. It is yellow, which is good. I thought it was white, so that's how much I know, and I lived in that area my whole life. It is completely faded now, so it's kind of hard to distinguish where exactly it is. So what we just have to kind of figure out is, are we keeping the 2 lanes there like it's always been? How much feet we have in those areas in each of the roads. You need at least minimum 4 feet for a sidewalk. Okay, so in that area we do have roughly 5 feet. When he did that out on that, if you look at the sample, and it matched right up. It was 5 feet, and then we're going to decide if you're going to do the parking right next to the sidewalk where the line is, or are we going to distinguish parking spots, or are we just going to let people just kind of park at that area?
Why can't they park on their property, in their driveway?
Some of the people, we'd have to find that out, who has property. I think a lot of it is the people that own the homes there, yes, they have property. The people that rent from a couple of the buildings in that area, at least on Chestnut, I don't think they've I know the new place on the corner that he rebuilt on, West Street, there's no driveway there.
Their driveway is on West Street.
Yeah, it is.
It's on West Street, but where on West Street? Is it behind his house?
Yeah, it's
It's-
the garage.
You go around the corner and it's right there.
All right, we were just
You
there.
took the garage down.
Exactly, it goes down into his driveway, into his yard. We were just there the other night for something, and there's no driveway there. It goes right straight into his yard.
So he removed his driveway.
Exactly, so I think one of those is gonna be a problem, because he parks his truck right on the corner of West in Chestnut. And I think this is a lot of the issue though too, is people are complaining, obviously you come off of even High Street onto Chestnut and you can't see. Well, law is intersections 15 feet. We've even put that in the ordinance that we had, or the stuff that we did earlier. So you gotta have 15 feet. So we need signage. We need signage for the 15 feet. We need to put the signage on the 3 intersections. So no parking within 15 feet of an intersection. That's gonna keep cars off. We need to trim the bushes back from the intersection so people can see up and down the road. We need to put a yellow line that goes obviously where the existing yellow line is, if we feel good with that. But I think we need to also make sure, if we're we're going to do this whole plan, just like every other town and state, that no parking on a sidewalk, we're going to make sure our sidewalks are the 4, roughly, because some of the places I measured them out today, it was 3.5, some areas even 2, around hydrants and stuff. So now someone's in a wheelchair, they're going around, or, they're trying to pass each other, because there's a lot of state stuff that says you got to have an area.
So the ADA requirement is 4 feet?
4 feet minimum.
Minimum.
So 4 or 5.
The other problem you have is if you have 2-way traffic and a sidewalk, there is no way to fit in parking.
Yeah.
The roads are not wide enough.
Not wide enough, and if you have somebody coming this way and that way, both wheelchair, and they meet at the same point, one's going to be in the road.
Yeah.
So you got to have some kind of an area. So signage, I think, we got to educate, we got to inform people that this is what we're going to do, because we can't just say, right, as of right now, today, if we started tomorrow, there's nothing that distinguishes that's a sidewalk. The people that have lived it their whole life, people that have been residents, we all know what it is, but a lot of people don't know what that is. Touching on that too, winter parking ban is going to be kicking in on the 15th of November. So a lot of that at night and during the day, will be off the roads, but during the day, unless there's a snowstorm or something like that, they're still allowed to park there unless we do something different with that.
If we do restripe, I think we need to check. I don't know if yellow's allowed on that side, because it's typical highway, that's the oncoming traffic side, not...
You'd almost think of another color, because exactly
That's right.
White would be, I thought it was white, and I was
Well-
like, that's a fog line. I mean, everybody would think that, so you pull over, but it is yellow, so you're right, we'd have to
And
figure out.
with snow on it, it would be hard to distinguish sometimes.
And all he said, when he wrote that out, it just said 4-inch solid yellow line, and then actually it said a solid white line on his little sample, but a white line to me and to most of the people is a fog line, and then you'd say, oh, well, I can pull over here, thinking that's what that's there for. We don't want that, we don't want to mess them up. So maybe a red line, I don't...
Blue?
It must be a state highway or
Can't happen.
standard.
No?
Manual uniform traffic control devices,
We can find that out, yeah, we usually, that's something easy
probably
to
has the
find.
color.
I mean, like I
What's the
said,
recommendation from the police department with regard to parking? No on-street parking? Yes, on-street parking?
I'll say it hasn't been an issue, but obviously I don't live on that road, so I don't want to
No, it's mostly with the parking on the sidewalk is the complaints that I
Exactly,
hear.
because some cars are nicely, like I took a picture of one today, guy, it was right perfect, right on the yellow line, and was perfect. And then the next one up was right in the middle of the sidewalk, or what is the sidewalk?
I think most of the residents there that complain is because of the, right on the intersections of parking.
And it's against, it's
And
15
that's
feet, we had
already-
that in here.
That's already against the law.
So,
Typically, the cars on the sidewalks, they're not always the residents, they're visitors.
Mhm.
So they're not there all day.
correct, so and that's, we have to find out, the landlords or the people that own the buildings there that have apartments, how many spaces did they designate for each apartment? So I rent an apartment, usually it's 2 vehicles, that's usually, I think that's how it goes. So we gotta find out who, because I can even like think of those, and it's mostly on the, obviously the right-hand side when you come down. It's a big house, those ones, it's really just in the middle, around like 21, 25, and 27. And then and then you get up to that one right between West and High Street, and that issue. And then on the other side, which is High Street,
So we'll
That's-
clarify this, I guess.
Those
with
are houses.
Chief, but
yeah, those are houses, yeah.
They're not
That's-
rentals.
That's Hastings, yeah. Yep.
it sounds like we should be ordering some no parking
Yeah.
from here to corner signs? Is that-
Yes, for the intersections, exactly.
And I don't know if you guys can come up with the number that we need, give it to Kevin, and we can start ordering up those signs.
I think that would,
We'll
resolve
figure
a
out
lot.
the color of the lines in for the marking and get the line for the sidewalk down.
Mhm.
And then, I guess at that point, you have to figure which areas of the road are sufficiently wide enough
Mhm.
that you could put a couple parking spaces.
None of
And then
them.
the other ones,
None of them in the tree district.
that very well could be the answer.
Yeah, because once you designate those parking spots, exactly, yeah, and I did the same thing. You don't have enough of the screenshot and kind of put my little notes here.
So what about the speed issue? That was why everybody had come in, they were all talking about the speed issue. And
one-way
enforcement.
Streets. and
One-way street,
Which one,
it's
you
not
can't get a
addressed.
fire truck and a
Mhm.
whatever past each other if they're parked over here. So then they had to park on the sidewalk in the winter time and so on and so forth. Is there any recommendations about that?
It really just determines on what direction we're gonna try to go. If we're just gonna do the solid line, and then, as it's always been, you just park your vehicle there, because it's a distinguished white, just like we have downtown, where you park your vehicle in there. On the first one where we Red Road, 2 travel lanes with parking and with a sidewalk, there's not enough room.
But so what you're doing is you're saying,
If we
here's what Steve Pernaud did 3 years ago, which we've been dealing with this for 3 years, and we've been asking the chief to make us a decision for 3 years, which the chief should be here right now, and he's got an emergency, so he sends you, and we're asking him to make a decision on what we should do for the tree streets, because we have residents that are saying the selectmen have failed to make any type of headway into doing anything for their safety in Cedar Street, High Street, Linden, all around in there, Chestnut, West Street, any of those streets for speed, for visibility, for parking, for on the sidewalks, walking on the sidewalks, any of those issues whatsoever. And you're still saying to us, vacillating back and forth, to say, well, if we do this, then we could do that. If we do this, we could do this. But it's still no decisions. And
It's a decision I would
and it's
make
not
back.
for you, because if we gave this project to you 3 years ago, we would have had it answered.
So I can give
2
you
months
my honest opinion,
after
living
that.
on Daniel Drive my whole life, learning how to drive in those areas, being a cop in this area, walking that road. Never had an accident on that road, okay? I've never been to an accident as a law enforcement officer in the 7 years I've been here ever on that road, okay? I've never got called for anybody that's been struck on that road or any other issues. So to me, there's not a huge issue with that. The only issue is the people that don't know how to drive down that road that's the issue, because anybody else that's from this area, if someone's coming down, you push over to the side, they come through, you go around, you park, it's not a big deal. It's just, if we're gonna put a sidewalk there, we don't want people parking on the sidewalk. That's the plain and simple. There's not enough room, though, to put a sidewalk, parking spaces, and then 2 travel lanes. So we need to then figure out, but my honest opinion is I've never
But it's
been
not only the people that live there though, Abe,
Yep.
right now, because right now you have people that cut through that area that are not familiar with that area, except just cutting through.
Yep.
So now you come up to High Street and you can't see through the bushes, except now they've just been trimmed down, so where the manor was. So you can't see right or left because you have somebody parking on the right in that apartment complex, and it's not being enforced because they're within the 15-foot structure. And then on the left, you have the big bushes with the architect there, so you can't see coming down Daniel Drive, so you have to inch out a little bit more. And these are people that have lived there a long time, and then you have people that haven't, and they're just passed through, and they're, balls out, go.
Yeah.
And that's where you're having the troubles. That's where all the people are having the
And
trouble.
that's why I said we need to
Neighborhood
trim-
is up in arms, because it's not just people that live there. People that live there know the ins and outs of that,
Yeah.
like you're saying.
And I could say that, right across High Street, where when you look down, right when you look down Chestnut and you get to Prospect Street, both of those bushes, so we need to trim, right when I said from the very beginning, we need to trim all the shrub, everything needs to be trimmed in that area. You gotta be able to see visibility. 15 feet is the law for 15 feet from an intersection, we have that in here, we need to put up signs so that we can say, when that car's parked there and we drive up and we do it, instead of being like, okay, are you within the 15 feet? So that's where we want to put those signs. That's going to alleviate at least those intersections. Then we need to find out who lives in those buildings and where do they park when it's winter parking ban? Where are their driveways? How many parking spots do they get? And can they park somewhere else?
They do mysteriously disappear in the winter.
Yeah, no, it makes itself work, so then we have to then educate them that from now on, and if that means we're no more parking on those streets, then no more parking on the streets.
Except on High Street.
We just need, High Street's gonna be,
They don't mysteriously disappear.
yeah.
They don't have any shoulders either. So
They have to take the sidewalk.
I think your suggestion is a good one, to start with trimming the bushes, getting away from the intersections, because that's really, for the motoring public,
Mhm.
a real safety issue. I've experienced that
Yep.
myself.
Yep. I mean, I sit up during the school time at the end of High Street where actually Prospect goes down. You can sit above where the Abbott's place is, and the
Yeah.
bush is so big right there that
Can't
you
see
get
it.
them all day long. You can't
Can't
see,
see
but
it.
they pull out, but you know when they don't stop, and all day long. So I think those are huge. I really do think that education, as in like finding out really who parks there and how does this work why are your vehicles not here? Like I don't have a parking spot, but my vehicle's gone in the wintertime. Okay, well, we need to start using those parking spots. And that's the thing. And the building at 21 Chestnut, I know
They have a
what's-
huge parking lot out back.
what's going, yeah, so I don't know. No one lives in 21 though, because it's
Yeah,
abandoned.
we vacated it,
Okay,
and it
so-
remains vacated.
and there's a lot of parking behind there, so,
Yes, I checked the tax cards, and so far it hasn't been sold.
yeah.
So let me ask this, I've seen many places in residential areas, they put signs that says no through traffic. Now, I know people don't always follow signs or rules, but putting a no through traffic might also assist to tell people, well, technically you can't cut through
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Would that be help?
It's an enforcement nightmare.
It's an enforcement nightmare, but sometimes suggesting that, you could get in trouble for doing this. So people-
No, yeah, it's just
You know how
true.
much hundreds of cars go through there? Hundreds.
Yes, exactly.
It's the
and
same
that's
as
why I love
parking,
to see it.
cutting across a
No
parking,
through traffic.
right here in the corner and go through the Big Apple parking lot to beat the stop sign. We see it, it's against the law.
There at
With the mobile.
132, they do it all the time.
Anytime we see it, we pull them over because you can't do that. You can't just wait and stop. You're like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna cut across this way. So it'd be the same thing. You just have to, if it was up, if it had to be enforced, then we enforce it. Especially in that time around school, because that's usually, we know, that's right around, I used to go that way myself. Walking around, cut across. And they want to get there quick and they want to beat their friend to the light, so they get, and then they're like, I beat you, and they just went 45 miles an hour down these side streets.
Yeah.
So,
They don't know.
I mean, I hope I answered some questions,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And again, not going 100% off of what his sample is, but walking that out with a wheel,
It doesn't
and you get
work.
the edge of pavement. Well, the edge of pavement looks great when you're looking down right here, but when you look down the road, it goes like this, and there's everybody's trash cans, because luckily I did it when there was day for, now all the trash cans are in the way.
Yeah.
And then you look down this way, and the curb comes out after the church, and there's grass. Well, so you can't really call that edge of pavement, you have to find the edge of pavement, so.
Well, it's like Cedar Street too, because within Cedar Street in winter, they take up the speed bumps, but then they'll they'll plow Cedar Street, but they won't plow the painted sidewalk.
Mhm.
So everybody, they sort of kind of park in the street, not, I mean, they don't walk, they walk in the street and they nothing, the painted sidewalks aren't plowed at all.
And that's gonna be a problem.
So that's like 4 feet on Cedar Street.
And that's gonna be a problem too, because you're gonna clean off that new, painted line in the sidewalk, and you're gonna make sure you'll be able to see that
Like
also.
you do that on High Street and they park there.
Well, you get them for parking on a sidewalk.
Now, that's what we're trying to.
Start.
But
So you're,
when Dickie Paulus was here, he allowed them and gave them permission on High Street to park on that. Do you remember that whole big thing? He actually said it's better for them to park with 2 wheels on the painted sidewalk than it is for me to give them a citation. He explained that all to us right in front of us.
I remember him
Remember
saying
that?
that.
are you suggesting that we post the signs at intersections all over that area, or just in one spot?
The bad one, the ones that you can see that are gonna park right there. I mean, on the intersection, I don't think there's anybody on the intersection of Cedar and
And High,
High.
the green apartment building, where are they gonna park? It's within 15 feet of the intersection. Their driveway's within 15 feet of the intersection.
Park down in their
The park in
driveway.
their driveway.
If they park in the driveway, it's fine, but that's the whole thing we're trying to get to, is if it's within
Because
15
they're not
feet, you
there in the
can't park
winter.
within that 50, because it's gonna block, it's
Fire
just gonna
trucks,
block
or-
that, and that's what you were saying. I mean, it's dangerous. It's dangerous, so.
I mean, typically, any New England street, if you applied all this to it, you couldn't park anywhere. I'm on Morrison Ave, there's people park there all the time, and going up the street, you go around like this, and if somebody's coming this way, they stop and they do that, and it actually, the neighbors actually do park in the street to keep people from going fast.
Yeah.
To make an outspoken, and I'm sure all of us who live on a rural road have experienced that.
Yeah, so again, we have, for law enforcement, police, for us to enforce it and to write somebody into, for the court to see it and then go, you're guilty, not guilty, there needs to be steps that need to be taken to make sure that we do it that way. Because if we don't, we're just wasting our time by writing paper and then going to the court, and they're gonna go, "No, there's nothing there that distinguishes that's a sidewalk, and there's nothing that states that they cannot park there."
It would be nice to start with the easy steps.
Yes,
that we
that's
can
what I
do,
was-
the
yep.
Little steps.
Yep.
is- that we
So,
can do.
just as a recap,
Yep.
the little steps that we're going to do, we're going to get no parking from here to corner signs,
Yep.
put those up. And we're gonna have Kevin order those,
Yep.
and then we're gonna get them installed.
Yep.
And
And then
trim-
shrubbery,
Trim the bushes. And the third thing I heard you say, which was find out who parks there.
Yeah.
And you find that out by looking at the license plates and determining that and figuring out if they should be parking there?
Yeah, that's correct. So the areas, I mean, I could, in my head, I could close my eyes and I know which areas they are. You just need to make contact, and it's not probably gonna be that person, it's gonna be, who's your landlord? It's so-and-so, okay, if I get his number, how you doing? This is, and have a conversation and find out exactly and write that stuff down, and we'll have it.
So,
This building, 21 or 25, this is where they park, this is where they park, and we'll have it.
okay, so does the board agree with that?
Yes.
It's a very good beginning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also the sidewalks, what are we gonna do with the painted, you're gonna measure them, right?
Yeah, we'll measure them, we'll find out what areas are really tight, and then we'll color. Yep. And we'll find
So
out what's.
is that a fourth?
Across by complete.
Yeah, that's a fourth.
So you're gonna,
Right.
you're gonna,
I can, yeah, yes, I can do the
We
research
should find out
on.
what
you're
what-
doing the research?
Yes.
Okay.
Or is that a fourth? He's gonna
He's
do the
doing the
research on the painted sidewalks, the
Color.
measure,
Images.
color.
And I can do the measurements too. And the areas that I drive by and say, yeah, it looks pretty narrow. Mark them.
Okay, got it.
Enforcement?
Enforcement?
Enforcement.
Enforcement.
When we do this, there's gonna be
Education first.
patrols and especially at the beginning, to make people know that, you know,
It's the
We're
same,
serious.
it's the same as every year that I do with, if I'm on a midnight, with the winter ban parking. Like I told you, the notices I put out, about 70 last year on windows, printed them out, went to the PD, did it myself, and put them all up. That was 3 weeks before the winter parking ban, so around this time. And I did it again around the beginning of November, I was down to 2025. And then, yeah, and then on the 15th, the day that it is, because they've already got, I only had like 2 or 3. It was like, there you go. And it could have been 70 the first day, and I would have been like, writing them out, right, morning, or, you know. So we just educate. I think it's education, just, that's the more, so.
just out of curiosity, did you go back and give them one more chance and knock on their door? Did you write them a ticket?
No, I'm pretty good with it, I'll tell you. I give them, the next one I won't give them a notice. The next one is a warning slip in red. That's tagged, that's a warning. And your next one will be, and then that's it. So, I hate to tell, but.
One of my kids go. I said, he's not gonna let you go next time. That
I
was
say
a
710 on the bottom, because I usually just put my number. I
Yeah.
don't want to put my last name sometimes.
Thanks, Ed.
You got it. And I will fill the chief in, but we're pretty much on the same page, but we'll go from there. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Coming in.
Yep.
Yeah, you
Save this for a couple of years out.
We have selectmen's reports, starting with Joe.
absolutely.
I'm good.
Okay, we have, I didn't have a lot going on, just, I'll tell you the final thing, that portrait, the painting, kids did a great job.
Oh, absolutely.
We did that. The other thing is Pizza Express closed in Tilton,
Good.
and they're, I guess they've gone out of business.
That's too bad.
So that's kind of sad. I'm not sure why, but it might be nice to find out why people left or something.
I'm sorry, what happened? I missed
Pizza
it.
Express next to Cumberland Farms and the Chinese restaurant, they closed down. They've been there maybe about 10, 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Been a while.
And, they're gone. Yeah.
They've been, I thought, changed ownership a few years ago.
No, it's been the same person since Cartridge was out of there.
Been that long? Well,
Yeah.
just look around, how many pizza joints are there in Tilton,
You know,
Northfield?
it'd be nice to find out
I mean,
from
Tilton, Franklin.
It would be nice to find out what
And
the,
Domino's just went in too.
what, you know, what the reason is, the type of business or something.
Maybe that's
No.
good.
Yeah.
The other thing, and I don't know if this is for the public or was just a selectman, but we all got a notice, Juliet Harvey Polea, she's having the October 16th tour at the Main Street Commission
Oh,
in the live work unit.
live work, yeah.
Live work, yeah.
What's
I don't know if anybody saw that. Well, I'm not exactly sure which piece of property they're talking about.
Right across the street where the
Laundromat.
laundromat is.
With the laundromat.
Oh, Marissa.
And they were talking about, you know, properties where, getting back to the old way when people would live at their business and have a small shop. Maybe they'd live above it and have a shop below and do that. And it's a good viable way to get people into downtown, living here as well as operating a small business that maybe out of their house or something out of their storefronts. We worked for many years. And, so that is on.
I wasn't on the list.
Only 4 selectmen.
What?
Really?
She only sent it to 4 selectmen.
So
I said I didn't see anything.
So, anyway, we're all invited except for Peter, and
Good. I get a night off.
so, anyway, so that's at 4:30, meeting out in front here, and we can forward this over. That's all I've got. Did you get a penny? Did you get it?
Well, I didn't. There were 4 selectmen that got it. Well, there was 1 excluded. 4
The
Peter.
unknown.
I'm sure it wasn't deliberate. You're not, it wasn't me.
No, I know it wasn't you. No, just the wager.
Oh, the wager. Gotcha.
I sent it out. And then I think hopefully you guys.
I'll check it.
My turn.
And, yeah, who's next? Who's Pat? Yeah.
I have a few things.
Pick one.
No. Oh, I will pick one. All right, this is for John Scanlon. As a thank you for doing work at Tilton Senior Center.
Peach pie?
I did not do it, but I did have a friend do it.
This is a blueberry pie.
I gotta go home.
I was gonna say, there's forks over here. And plates.
This is in addition to the blueberry muffins that I made him.
This is homemade. I just looked, this is a homemade flaky ice cream.
Okay, so here's some topics here. So the senior center had a health inspection, which they failed today. There's new standards, and they have to have a air gap in the 3-bay sink, the bay that they do rinsing the food.
Yeah.
And then we have
Just did that.
7 days to comply, so we got a plumber that's going to go out there and do that now. Also, we have 30 days to comply to get our new floor installed, which was on the chief to do. Lowe's is actually donating the floor and has been with the grant, and that's why we wanted the carpenter to finish up with the shoring of the floor. Lowe's is donating the grant for the flooring, and East Coast Flooring is donating the install. So we heard, I called the chief and said, we have 30 days to comply now for this floor to be put in for our health inspection. So he did call back and say that they're going next week to do this. So it should be in within the next week or two. Thank you to East Coast Flooring. It's a new community partner for the senior center. Lowe's has been a community partner for the senior center since its inception almost 10 years ago. So thank you again,
Where's
Lowe's.
East Coast Flooring? You can find them in the yellow pages.
Somewhere on the East Coast.
But thank you, I appreciate it, because I just heard that news. We have a pancake breakfast to support the senior center on October 19th on Saturday, 8 to 10 at Applebee's.
Bring your trash and take it to Amnesty after.
Yeah, what Peter says. We are in the process of the contract negotiations with the police union, so deadline by Thursday, no more, it's part of the rules, no more add-ons. So if you have an add-on that you would like input to change or discover or clarify for us, for the negotiating team, you must submit it soon, by next Thursday at least. Well, we're meeting our next one is the 29th, so we have to get it to the lawyer for a proposal, to add it in for the proposal, so you have to get it to us by next Thursday. Is that all right?
Pat, would it be possible to have a non-public and discuss what some of those things?
Next Thursday, you want to have a non-public? Not
That's
tonight,
good
because
time.
we're way over time. Yeah,
Okay.
we can if you want. That, I mean, that would be,
Well,
That would be
heads
good.
together.
and we could just take down, because some of them are probably already things that we've thought of, and we could say, oh, check that off, all right. Yeah, we could do that. And last night, I attended the presentation by our deputy town clerk tax collector. She spoke at the Tilton School on the old gravestones. It was a packed house, absolutely packed, I had trouble finding a seat, but I eventually found one. But she is giving a tour down at the Park Cemetery on the old gravestones on October 26th at 1 p.m. just before our Halloween celebration in the evening. So if anybody would like to attend there, it's part of the Historical Society that's hosting that. I think that's it.
Excuse me. So I have two things. The first one, the Main Street Committee would like to know if they could spend $200 to plant the barrels downtown. Last year they had a grant from the Gardeners Group.
Master Gardener.
Master Gardeners, thank you. But they weren't able to get that this year, so they want to spend between $150 to $200 to plant those.
I missed
Budget.
those, yeah.
Pardon?
Put in the budget for next year, you mean?
No, this year, they'd like to do some plantings now.
Fall
Moms and
plants.
heavy.
Yeah, they'll plant,
Before,
they can put evergreen.
before Halloween?
Yes,
Nice.
yeah.
Yes, I'm for that.
Is that a motion, Kevin?
If you want it to be a motion, yes, or a consent.
Second.
Okay.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in
What are we
favor?
voting on?
I have-
$200 on,
Maximum.
for plantings in the barrels. Right? That was the
Maximum
motion.
of 200.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Could you email Julia and let her know? I don't have the capability at all.
The planters are still at Billy's, right?
Oh, I don't know, but they'll take care of that. They have some young people that are gonna help them plant them, so it'll be a great thing.
Lois has got a bunch of stuff, 75% off.
Oh, she mentioned that. Also, I had a property owner on Main Street contact me. Evidently, people are, they believe, going through West Pocket Park, going behind the buildings and spending the night in the alleyways. A couple of the property owners there have, had to go out and have them removed. Some women that live in one of the buildings have been, startled by them. They asked if the town would install some sort of gate between West Pocket Park, because the building comes down, the fence goes by, and you can walk through. Now, my understanding is there's meters behind there that people have to get to. But they would still like us to secure that, so people can't go through West Pocket Park. Well, we could certainly secure our park, but how will people read those meters?
Meters on the back side, on the river side?
They're going between, so where that back fence in West Pocket ends, there is a space wide enough between the end of the building for people to go through.
I suspected that. I wish we had brought that up with Abe here because he's the midnight guy. I suspected that because there are a few people that are homeless right now.
I found some in West Pocket, in Riverfront Park a couple of weeks ago.
Maybe we can get with these people and tell them about the resources available to them.
They don't want you.
So, I don't think it's a decision we can make
Decide to
tonight. I think we all need to go down there and look. I myself have not had time to look at that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a park commission issue?
Pardon?
Wouldn't that be a park commission issue?
It's not the park's problem, it's passing
Well,
from
it's
the
the
park
parks,
over.
it's a
Well,
parks
it's
property.
probably a combination of,
I'm just asking, wouldn't that be park?
I'm gonna bring it up to them Monday night, but I
Yeah.
also thought the selectmen should be aware.
Oh, yeah,
Because, we have a liability if,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
guess, I'm not sure, if somebody
Well,
goes.
if somebody went through there and drowned or electrocuted.
Well, I'm not sure, but I just
I
wanted to
think
make.
I think that we should do something. I mean, talk with the Parks Commission. I think that in the event, because of the liability that's involved in that, we should at least secure something.
Yeah. But
Not
like I
sure
said,
what.
if you can, take the opportunity to look,
Yeah.
you know, I'm going
Right.
to.
Can we talk to Abe too, because he's gonna, I'm sure he can recommend
Yeah, I
something.
think we need to look at it, and then maybe next week we can talk to, I assume the chief will be in next week.
Find out
if he
what
wasn't in this
resources
week.
are for the people to encourage them.
Mhm. Okay.
I know they
There you
know.
go.
I've asked about the people that live over here on the trail, and they're well aware of what the resources are, because they go out there and try to get them those resources. And
Right.
some is a thing, and some they
Right.
don't want it.
Well, I know Heather has tried almost 3 months for 2 particular ones right now. They're way, way too proud.
Well, the other big problem is a health problem, because that means they're defecating out there.
That's right, that's right.
You
It's
gotta go.
unsanitary.
You gotta go, you gotta go. and
The solution
Oh,
to
there you go.
pollution is delusion. They've got the toilet.
They
there.
flush it,
That's-
yeah, so flush it.
I,
What about the PFAS?
I just want to add, I know it's late, but I attended that talk last night that Kim Souls gave on the gravestones. Now, I love gravestones, I've been wandering around them all my life. But what an excellent talk. I came away with knowledge and perspective that I didn't have before. I mean, I'm anxious to go back into graveyards I've already been in. If you have the opportunity to listen or to attend one of those lectures, you should. It was absolutely,
Yeah,
Incredible.
I wanted to go and was otherwise occupied.
you should try to attend the one she's gonna do at the
Yeah, just before the.
town cemetery. That was great.
Did it?
I'm good, thank you.
One thing, next Wednesday, October 16th, 6 o'clock, Franklin City Hall, is the DOT hearing on the Caleb Hill Road project. Anyone who has an interest or feels they may be impacted and wants to make sure the project gets done should go to this meeting. That's it.
Okay. Last on the agenda is town administrator report.
And I see Joe looking at the,
Yeah, just looking at the clock. You do what you gotta do.
okay. So, under my report, under action items, the February 2020 election site, we looked at 2 sites for the voting in 2020. Talked to Tim Jubert, talked to the superintendent. The middle school is a possibility if we wanted to have a barrier wall created so that it would direct people right into the gymnasium. I also have had several conversations with Kevin Duval about having the elections at the DPW. And he's assured me that he can address some of the concerns, which were lighting, heat, odors, and parking. He says he feels like he can address that. So really, for you as a select board, it's your decision. What do you want to do? And the superintendent, I asked him today, I said, how soon do you need to know this? He said he'd like to know, you know, as soon as you can make a decision. He'd like to know if you want to use the middle school or not. So, Joe.
How would we inform the public that the site of the voting was completely different? Neither school, we've been going to the schools for a long time now, and how do we get the word out?
What about when we went to Tilton School during the construction?
Yep,
Public
Signage.
notice.
We have a variable message board, but it may be too cold for the batteries. I'm not sure. We'll have to check with the people who house the thing.
When did we vote at the Tilton School?
During the construction of the high school.
When the
I
middle school roof
wasn't
was
even
We
a
have-
voter back then.
we have voted several times at
Remember
the
Bolton
at
is-
Tilton
No,
School
no,
since
they
I've been
have,
a
yeah, and
selectman.
they set up
Yep.
Okay, I like the school.
I like Public Works. We will never be kicked out. We'll never have to move again.
Um,
And parking's not an issue.
I like the public works, but it's getting kind of close. I'd like to
Not
Close
until
to
4 or 5
February.
months.
When?
February.
February.
When?
Yeah.
2020.
That's right.
I mean, the pros of having it at DPW is, one, you have control of the site now and forever. Assuming you don't sell your DPW, but you have control of the site. The employees who regularly work to set up for, election day can set up at their
No
leisure,
overtime.
right? They don't have to work around a school schedule. There will be better parking there,
It'll be plowed.
and it'll be plowed. The pro of having it at the middle school is people have been there before. So,
But we bounce between the two, so they have to drive in which one is it this year.
right. So,
It would be nice to own the place,
mhm.
the public works and
Not get bounced out because of scheduling.
scheduling and also extra details and stuff like
Kevin
that.
seems to be pretty excited about it, wanting to make that accommodation, so.
All our voting equipment could be kept at Public Works, so they don't have to come here and gather all the stuff. 90% of it would.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't it stored at Public Works now, the booths?
No,
and-
stuff up there.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, let's move right on with this. I make a motion that we have the February 2020 election and all subsequent elections at the Department of Public Works.
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion.
So the only other consideration is, you all have been having this discussion, and when it first started, what you were asking me was, what does the moderator think? What does the town clerk tax collector think? So maybe you don't, maybe you want to have them come in, or maybe you want me to, I'm sorry, I don't want to, I know you're trying to make a decision, but I just don't want you to go back on it in a week or so because you don't think about.
You didn't talk to them?
It is my feeling from talking to the town clerk tax collector that she's in favor of having it at the DPW. I don't have that strong sense from the moderator. That I'm unsure of.
He was concerned about lighting,
So that,
according to the town clerk.
Yeah.
so I just wanted you to be aware of that.
We have time.
He,
You want to have, under discussion, I think that probably would be good to have,
I don't have a problem
Voice it.
if we have the both of them come in.
voice their concerns.
I'm
I
sorry.
was just say, which site would you like to use if you didn't want to know?
What's that?
If you didn't.
I do want to know,
Oh.
but I'm just telling you, I also don't want next week have you be getting emails.
I would withdraw my
Yeah.
motion.
I'm sorry.
I think
I think it's a good idea. Let's have them
Perhaps
both
a-
come in and have that
a
conversation.
consensus on how we feel, and then talk to them before we
Right.
actually vote on it.
Well, it's a
How's
good
that
idea,
work?
John.
So I'm gonna say Public Works, so anybody else Public Works, what are you saying?
I'm gonna wait and hear from,
Well, yeah,
but
but
this
which
is
way
just-
you leaning? If you had to choose tonight.
well, so what you're doing is playing your cards before
Okay,
you
so
tell the
we have
moderator.
4
Stay
to, I
silent.
don't know.
No, throwing out
Four
what we
to
were
nine.
thinking.
Well, then there's no sense bringing the moderator in.
He
we're
could
going-
talk you out of it.
Huh?
He could talk you out of it.
You could point
You
out
could
some
talk any of
reasons
us out
why
of
we
it.
should.
So let's wait till we hear from them.
All right, so anyway, you have a consensus. Historical marker for the 150th has been installed finally in the right place. Thank you, New Hampshire DOT. And we already, I jumped ahead of myself a little bit. This is a 150th committee project, and so they will be meeting next week, and I will ask them to pick a date for the unveiling. The selectmen obviously should be there for it. And I'm hoping that they will select that time before Halloween because I don't want it to get vandalized.
Why was doing it before Halloween prevent it from being vandalized?
It has a bag over it. You know, It'll just be, we know it'll be uncovered.
Okay,
The other item, other action items, the surety release, MB Tractor, the land use coordinator is recommending a bond reduction in the amount of $228,907.50, leaving a balance of $6,727.50 to support the completion of the remaining bond items. The memo is in your file to how
I
she
have
got
concerns.
to that, and my question to you is if you concur, please make a motion to reduce the bond.
I have concerns when I look at what was left to do. There's a lot more than $6,700 worth of work to do, and if we cut back to that, that's all we got to nail them on, correct?
What's left should reflect the value of the work that's left to be done.
And I don't think it's anywhere near the, because there's some paving to be done. That's going to be more than $67,2750.
and how is it that the land use coordinator ascertained that this was the proper thing at the proper
With
time?
an inspection from an engineer, so
Where's the list?
it was in the
Right here. It was in the,
green folder, one of the folders. Because there was a list of things to be done.
I would say install guardrails and safety fence at the boulder wall. Maybe science paint, good. Oh, that's the ends, right? Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that. Everybody see it?
Wow. Ted, did you see that?
Yep. I read it earlier.
Listen, I'd say I'd rather lose the $6,000 than get that work done. Well, there's no incentive to get it done, and we couldn't pay.
That's the purpose of the
It'll cost us more
bond.
than $7,000 to get that stuff done, I would think.
So do it all but 20,000.
I'd like it at, well, depends how much paving we're talking, guardrail, that can add up quick. I'd like to get a ballpark estimate from the engineer as to what the cost is for the outstanding work.
And the time frame. Oh yeah, we're gonna do it, or 5 years from now, maybe.
You know, we held on to Walmart's. In fact, I think we still have it. Because the guarantee of growth of trees and things like that, but it was 15 years or so, and we couldn't get them to do stuff. So, I hate to just reduce it down to, I disagree with the amount.
Okay, I will ask the land use coordinator to get a value on those items that are outstanding and time frame. Next on the action items, office cleaning contract. Lisa Ogier and Gail Bestick have solicited 3 bids for a new cleaning company, and they're recommending Twin Rivers Cleaning Services. And there's a copy for each of you here.
What were the 3 bids?
What were the 3 bids?
The 3 bids are on the back.
Okay.
And you can take a look at that.
And what was the reason for soliciting the new bid? 3 bids?
Because they were unhappy with the current cleaning service.
And what, is it anything different than the contract we currently have?
It is, here's the contract for you to look at.
I don't have the old contract.
Sign. My understanding is they have, from the information I have, they have better equipment. I think there's a better price.
They don't have all the items listed under town park. The current company is great, I don't believe. Like I said, I don't have the old contract, so it's hard to know.
Yeah, I don't know, all I can tell you is that Lisa and Gail are very familiar with what happens in town hall and what happens at the police department and how effective or not effective the current cleaning company is. That's why they went out and did the work and got the bids, and that's why they're recommending this new cleaning company.
Which is bonded and all the rest of that stuff. And
But again, as a selectman, I can't make a decision on this if I don't
No.
know what did require the old company to do compared to this. I don't know if it's the same.
My understanding is it is the same.
Okay, I don't know.
It says what they plan to do right here, Cal.
Right, but what was the old contract?
Yeah.
I don't have it. I mean, I can go get it.
I mean, it says Twin Rivers scope of work is comparable to the current cleaning company.
Well, that's based on their review, not necessarily ours.
And what are we paying now?
It has it on
Oh, it is there, thank you. I just let you.
Does seem pretty comprehensive, but like Catherine says, without the other scope of work, I don't know if it's apples to apples or whatever, but I'm inclined to support the people who did all the research.
It looks good.
The contract, potential
Oh, I see.
contract.
It looks really good.
Yeah, they've got a lot of stuff down there.
What's the scope of work at the senior center since there's no charge?
It's down, it's on this, page 2, I think.
It says it's comparable to current cleaning company, comparable.
Oh, we don't have that copy.
No, it's the one to be signed, so we have to sign it before we get to see what's in it. Can we wait a week at least and get a copy?
I gotta see what's on there.
Not tonight.
I'm looking at here. Do we have? Let's see that contract again. Can you make copies of this and put it in the park commissioner's box?
Sure.
It's the same. I'm comparing the two, I can't imagine them having an objection.
They do windows?
That's what they do. This is pretty much what the other company does. I'm okay with whatever ones that they recommend, they did their homework, hopefully they did their homework.
Between Gail and Lisa, I feel like they were probably pretty thorough, but just having the 2 copies.
Knowing the two people, right?
Yeah.
The park says Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
So we're gonna wait a week on that.
When do you need to know? Jeannie, when does you need to know this?
Well, I think they were hoping to get it signed tonight, but if you're not comfortable with it, you wait a week.
Can you email us the existing contract along with that sheet of this, whatever I just passed to you? Oh, you're reading it now.
No, it's back there.
The scope of work, the one that we were all going to sign tonight?
Sure.
And I think the park commissioners should be considered.
Absolutely, I agree. Under the scope of work, yeah.
If I may, we're not currently on a contract, we're on a month-to-month,
Based on a previous contract,
based
right?
on
Yeah.
an expired
Okay.
contract.
Oh, that's what's going on now,
But
okay.
I did review myself with Gail, the whole process, and it appears that the scope of work was identical. In fact, I believe when this company interviewed Gail and Lisa, they took the exact same scope of work and used that as the basis for theirs.
And it should be pretty easy next week.
Gonna get a lot of cleaning done for $8.46 per cleaning at the park.
We'll see.
So, yeah,
It's
is that in the winter too? I mean, we have an annual total,
Parks is seasonal.
Yeah,
so,
they close.
so that number is based on the seasonal, they didn't
right.
price it out as,
I'd have to see how they put it out to bid, because I can't tell off of this. I'd have to see the RFP that went out, or
from what date to what date? So straight-
Parks is usually like May through October, Catherine?
May to October, the parks, right?
Well, the parks, it's critical that it be done Monday, Wednesday, and Friday
Yeah,
morning.
but May to October was the question.
I believe it's May to October.
Could be a couple, you know, like end of April if there's something going on.
I got you.
Like I said, I'd have to look at the old one.
It's right behind you.
The old one's right behind you, Kathy.
But I'm not-
Turning around to get it. Here, I'll
No,
turn.
no, I mean, I can
must
turn
be
around
bored.
and get it, but.
I'll
we
never
still
say
have
we
to-
need less
we're gonna get
printers.
the park commissioners meeting
That was a good one.
Yeah.
How did you get it to work?
Didn't I just
He's
send,
the IT guy.
I just sent something to print over there that would
Oh, yours
print.
went downstairs. He sat, yeah.
Oh, April 15th through November 1st. Peter, we were wrong.
Is that what I just printed?
Go on,
I got it. It's too late at the night, what you just printed.
I said so.
Tim has got some stuff coming. That's 3.
Exhibit A. Oh, I'm good.
No,
I'm good.
oh, this is page 2 and 3, this is still going on with whatever you got, Joe. This goes back with
So,
Kathy.
are we going
You've
to
got nothing
sign
but
this
2s?
tonight?
That's
All right, here's the one and the
Is it
2
two?
for you.
Okay, so we'll go on to the next thing.
No,
2,
I'm done.
Everybody's getting there.
Three.
You're done?
You're good.
Okay. We have a couple of things. We've got a non-public personnel left and other
No,
business.
I'm done.
You all done? Okay. Other business? Anything else?
There's a page 4.
Okay, because we're just about to end things, so anybody have anything else to say?
I have
Yeah.
one thing. Go ahead, Pat.
No, go
Ladies
ahead.
first.
No, go ahead, I was gonna
All
talk
right,
about the.
about the crosswalk, Winter Street and Riverfront Park. Anybody happen to look FYI?
Yeah, and I saw one word, recommends. That solved it for me.
Well, they recommend that, do they
$50,000.
They
require it?
recommend, they didn't require. There's a difference.
Yeah, they're gonna require it if you wanna put a crosswalk there.
They're gonna
Oh,
require the light.
but we don't need the light further down at, Mill Street and then further down at, where's the other crossing?
We're talking
That's
about
because
this
those are
one.
existing. They had said that when they talked about Salmon Run and adding a crosswalk there, future crosswalks, if we add any more crosswalks across Route 311, that's what they were gonna require. Also, this is less than what they were gonna require down there.
Oh, yeah.
That was huge. But that's what they said, future crosswalks. They can't come back and make the town put these at every single
How
crosswalk.
long has that been in
They already
effect?
have.
How long has that been in effect? We don't have one at the PD crossing over to,
Because there's no crosswalk there.
it's a crossing.
There's no
You got all the-
crosswalk. There's no crosswalk
That's why we didn't
in
put
the
it.
road.
Just now it says where it is.
Oh, so you have people crossing at an area that they have no protection. Another great idea.
Trees that are both different.
Because of the false sense of security.
I don't know what.
Except for, I believe RSA's in New Hampshire say if you get hit in the crosswalk, you're protected. If I get hit in a non-crosswalk, I'm at fault. I'm jaywalking.
Right.
So the sidewalk may be false sense, but legally it can get you some legal recourse.
Hey,
Mr. Chairman,
DOT.
I'm gonna look both ways before I cross the street kind of guy.
It's
Mr. Chairman, before I take a bite of your blueberry pie, the non-public personnel, I believe the person that we wanted that with is not here. Can we push that to next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other business that comes before us at this time?
Audience participation?
Please, there's one, right there.
As just speaking as one member of the PD building committee, I'll be excited if you camera and light the current impound yard, because that'll have an impact as for the impound yard proposed, that we can do that as an ad alternate and back that out of the project, maybe save a couple bucks, because we have an impound yard now. There was a lot of discussion about this impound and that one, so if you're gonna illuminate the camera of the existing one, that may help the committee make some decisions.
Is there need to have a second?
Went last week.
Right,
I
exactly, we
agree
could
with
back
you.
that up.
They were done.
Oh, I have one more question.
So, thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Next question.
Where's that recycling bin up here in town?
Oh, that's great.
We're done recycling apparently.
Recycling bin?
Yeah.
Didn't go on one, it's underneath the table.
No,
No,
it's
it's
not.
Not there.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, it was on last week.
It was
It
on
was
last
on
week.
last week, so I want to make an
Well-
announcement that we don't have a recycling bin anymore.
Well, not tonight.
I don't know.
Well, it wasn't here last week.
I'll make it
Okay.
reality. You didn't realize
Mr.
it
Chairman.
was as well.
Yes, go ahead.
This time I'd be happy to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
8:15 p.m.
Aye.